In the sim racing world, the commitments and talents range from novice to dedicated simulator expert. There are some where a Logitech wheel clamped to the dining room table and an old laptop is good enough. It whets the appetite, and there are some that will invest like Lockheed and Boeing in the war against the virtual lap time. There's even more that'll train for hours, days, weeks, and years to improve by 100th of a second. They'll skip parties, birthdays, and ignore what the weather is outside. They'll get upset and focused and thrilled and sad in the pursuit of perfection. Make no mistake, these people are lizards, focused on one task. Get faster, improve, defeat the competition. And that lizard brain will have all neurons firing for 3 hours today in 3 different car classes. This is the Sim Lizard 3 Hours presented by Spicy Cat Racing. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman for our second or third now endurance racing event here in iRacing with the Lizard Brains podcast group. And it is a packed field here today, Tom. 3 different car classes, GT3s, Porsche Cup, and GT4. And there's a lot to look forward here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah, hi, Kyle. I am grinning like an idiot from ear to ear. I'm so excited from this. That was the perfect intro. And yeah, it's our first special event for the Lizard Brains podcast in the 2025-2026 off season. And we're really kicking it off with a big one. It's Laguna Seca, 3 different classes for 3 hours. GT3 cars, GT3 Cup cars, those are the Porsches, and the GT4 class. They interact really interestingly here at a classic Road American circuit, and this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to keep us busy, too.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day. We've got a lot of racing up ahead, in the weather here in Salinas, California. Looks like a little clouds in the air. Air temperature is nice and pleasant, though. 66 in the air, 71 on the racetrack. And looking at this racetrack, it's mighty clean right now, Tom, but how long is that going to last once the green flag drops?
Not long, and we expect that green flag in about 25 minutes time. But first, we're going to hit qualifying, and it'll be a little different than usual. We're going to have a separate qualifying window within the session for each of the 3 classes, starting things off with GT4. They're only going to get 2 laps, and they'll have the track completely to themselves. So as we change camera angles, you'll notice every car has the track to themselves, but they're all qualifying at roughly the same time. In about 6 minutes, we'll release the Porsche Cup cars, that middle class, and then in about 12 minutes time, we'll release the GT3s. That'll help us cover things a little bit better. We're looking at roughly 20 cars in each class, a nice even spread across 55 teams entered for this race as GT4 qualifying is on their outlap.
Yeah, headed up this back straightaway, here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This is one of the great American racetracks built in the late 1950s, and this corkscrew is probably one of the most famous corners in all of United States sports car auto racing, but I would say it's probably one of the top 5 most famous corners on the planet. You put that in the same conversation as Eau Rouge and Radion at Spa, as the Dipper at Bathurst, 130R. It's just one of those corners that I think brings a lot of attention, but I think there's also some corners you see Kobe Harvey go there off at turn 11 there. One of the other corners I think that we don't talk about enough is turn 6, the lead up to that corner where you have to get the car sort of in the groove. If you miss that by an inch, you're off by a mile at the exit.
Exactly right. The corkscrew's the icon, but really it's kind of a non-factor in the lap when it comes down to the rhythm of this track. It's turn 6, like you mentioned, the fast left-hander uphill towards the corkscrew. And then also I'm going to throw in turns 9 into 10. Rainy curve down into turn 10. Those really on camber. You're dropping the same amount of distance, if not more, than the corkscrew drops. Again, it just compounds. You're falling down a mountain at that point. And it's those are the corners that really, really take a lot of commitment.
On board here with Noah Massey and the team just happy to be here. Tom, what do the registrations look like? We talked about how a whole bunch of teams have signed up. This is the largest grid that I've seen in a while here on SimTV. Again, we've been sort of quiet as of late, but my timing screen is full. So what are we looking at as far as registrations?
Yeah, we're looking at, like I mentioned, it's basically, I think the exact count might be 17 cars in GT4, 17 cars in the Porsche Cup class, and then 20 or so in GT3. So it's a really nice even spread. And we'll talk about the classes as we roll towards the green flag. But the GT4 class, they are the slowest cars by lap time. They're the most basic cars. You're going to see a lot of these Porsche Caymans, a lot of the Ford Mustangs with a smattering of BMWs, maybe the odd Mercedes or McLaren thrown in there as well. But these cars are going to be really busy with their mirrors. They're going to enjoy these 2 laps to themselves. And we should mention in qualifying, you do have to put in a clean lap. We saw Richard McDonald there just drop a tire into the dirt. If you go too far off limits, it's going to take the lap away. You only get the 2 laps. And that's going to be a big deal because I think passing and track position are going to come at a premium in this race. You're going to want a good qualifying session.
Yeah, again, the GT4 field, a lot more diversity in this category as far as makes and manufacturers. Nowadays here in iRacing, originally this class was just a handful of cars, but it's seen a lot of changes, including The Ford Mustang is now in the GT4 class here in iRacing, and it's a car that's fairly well subscribed. Mike Leader is shown here, the number 53, and on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see the manufacturers show up there. A lot of Fords and Porsches, though. It almost looks like the Pikes Peak Hill Climb with really just Ford, Porsche, and BMW, but Leader heads down the hill and into turn 9. What a fantastic sequence of corners down there through Rainy Curve.
Yeah, the Porsche and the Mustang have definitely become the favorites, at least for this race. We've definitely seen a little bit more ebb and flow track by track if you're a usual in iRacing. And then as far as the entering of this race goes, we actually have paid subscribers of the podcast. If you're not a listener, you can look us up, the Lizard Brains podcast. Those drivers received entry to the server first. There was about 18 teams that joined that way, and then the rest was a first-come, first-served basis to round us up to that 55 teams entered. There's one of the Mercedes, Marco Guidej, puts himself up into contention, but right now it's still Alex Cawford at the top. We've seen this Mustang basically lead every practice session he's joined in that huge-ass blue car. That's Hughjass. I'm just kidding. But the field's been pretty tight. We've seen also good competition from Richard McDonald, Nate Traxler, Alex Bueller, Mike Leader, all of those cars, Michael Brock also, all rounding out the top 6 currently.
There's Raul Iriarty in the Rising Edge number 84 Porsche. And looking at the dynamics of these different GT4 cars, one of my favorite things about sports car racing is that while all the cars are balanced to be in a particular performance window, Tom, they all retain sort of individualized characteristics. And this Porsche Cayman has always been known in iRacing for being quite nimble. It's dynamic, dimensionally much smaller than some of the other cars. And a place like Laguna Seca, this isn't a huge racetrack. This is a 2.2 mile track. I feel like this is a really good choice as far as horse for the course.
I totally agree. Really, the only time the cars seem to separate themselves, the Mustang might have a little bit better drive off the slowest corners with the torque that it has, but it is rear-wheel drive front engine where the Porsche kind of makes up with that mid-engine platform. Also, typically we've seen the Mustang be a little bit stronger in the high speed stuff. We're talking maybe turn 6 and 9 as cited earlier, but in general, these cars are going to be super, super tight. I think it's also worth pointing out right now that the GT4 class, but all the cars really, I think raw pace is going to be less relevant today than good choices in traffic. It's going to be really busy, particularly with GT4s. These cars run in packs. They don't get away from each other very well. It's going to be tight racing, and they're going to be getting lapped by 2 other faster classes of cars constantly. So good racecraft is going to pay off more today than raw lap time. But again, that track position in qualifying is going to be pretty important as well.
Here's Ryan Lorman from Spicy Cat Racing, our presenting sponsor for the event today. And it's neat to see, Tom, that Lizard Brains has got a partner on board for this event. So, of course, it is the Lizard Brains, or the Sim Lizard 3-hour presented by Spicy Cat Racing. So glad to have those guys on board today.
Yeah, very cool. It's a relatively new startup, Spicy Cat Racing, but it's kind of a one-stop shop for a bunch of your racing needs. They have a store online with a bunch of car parts, kind of the basics, brakes, brake fluid, things like that, but also fuel jugs, some knickknacks that you might need at the track, like fuel gauges. They also have some options for driver coaching. They're starting a club, which is actually one of the prizes for this race. The fastest lap of the race and the best livery of the race are both the most positions gained in the race are both going to get one of those memberships that get you a handful of coaching sessions, some discounts to their partners, their store. It's just all really cool stuff. He's also a part owner in the Hooked on Driving franchise down in the the Mid-Atlantic that just started up last season as well. So these guys have really been throwing a lot of energy behind motorsports, and it's special to have them kind of look at our community with enough respect and excitement to want to partner with us.
So Ryan Lorman continues to circulate. All the while, I'm noticing the timing and scoring screen is lighting up with some of these Porsche 992.2 Cup cars. This is our second class here, as far as class index goes. And this is a spec category. All the cars are the same. This car is brand new. They had the 992.1 Porsche in iRacing, but this car, as of Tuesday, is brand new. I haven't had a chance to even get in this car yet, Tom. How much is there to learn? Have you had a chance to jump behind the wheel?
I have driven it. It's literally 6 days old. Some of the drivers, especially the drivers that visited PRI over in Indianapolis for the real world stuff, the last couple of days, they've only had a couple of days to practice this car. The big change is driver aids. They have traction control and anti-lock brakes in these cars now, which some would argue make them a little bit easier, but the tire model is also a little bit more friendly. It's got a little bit more bite to the grip, so you can actually feel when it's at the limit. In general, people are loving it. We've had a bunch of teams that were going to run GT3 drop to the Porsche Cup class just because they've been enjoying these cars. So up to 17 cars roughly in this class, 2 laps of qualifying, exact same format. But people are loving this thing. It's right in the middle. It's kind of interesting. It basically goes the same speed down the straights as a GT3 car, but with a little bit less aero. And that means it's only slower than the GT3 cars in a couple of key spots. So really think of this as less of a middle class and more of just a slightly slower in the corners GT3 car.
It's DJ Alessandrini, co-host of the Lizard Brains podcast, out on course, and I think he's always going to be a threat to win basically everything. Has a background in professional esports. And so he had the Lizard Brain before it was applied to sim racing or even real-world racing, Tom. So he's going to be a threat to watch, and already on provisional pole by half a second over Matthew Morhart and Nick Bauer in the RMS with Rev Match machine.
He was fastest in practice by about 0.3 of a second, but Matthew Morhart for the On the Ledge Racing Orange team kept him pretty honest, as well as Zach Severe and Zach Rubin. Let's throw Nick Bauer in there, all in the same second in practice, that top 5. But I also got to give DJ the credit. He's put in so much work for this race. We have the subscribers of the podcast who can request setups for the sim. DJ's made all of those for them over the last couple of weeks. He did full fuel runs or simulated fuel runs on all the cars to make sure things were relatively fair. I mean, he's just put in a ton of driving time and work for the race. Maybe not so much for himself, but that has paid off in that himself has ended up very fast. Himself? Not sure what the grammar of that one was.
Still on the provisional poll for the time being. A number of other names that we'll recognize here from past Lizard Brains events and elsewhere in the grassroots racing world. Matt Waldbaum with Toffbaum Racing goes 3rd quick, and Dana Basinski has gone 5th quick. He just got knocked down to 7th as Valdes Vencevius in the variant Sim Sports car just went P6. It's a revolving door at the top, and here comes Ken House-Seal in the Liberty Bell Husbands category car. There's the 97 P2.
Cool story here. We have Ken House-Seal. Obviously, some of us know him from real-world SCCA, mostly autocross events, but he runs the Washington, D.C. Region League, which is really popular in our crowd. And then his wife, Amy, started up an all-women's inclusive league called the Liberty Bell League. So they both have a Liberty Bell League and a Liberty Bell Husbands team. The husbands are in the Porsche Cups, and then we saw the Liberty Bell drivers back in GT4. But yeah, the Lizard Brains podcast car of Alessandrini has the pace set by a long way right now. House-Seal goes to 2nd, then the On the Ledge car with Matthew Morhart in 3rd. Scuderia United Motorsports, Zach Severe. That's going to be an Iron Dames white and pink car in 4th. Zach Hitman Emporium with Zach Rubin, and then later on Kevin Zhu will be in the 5th position currently.
Yeah, a lot of late jumps up on the timing and scoring, and really neat to see how big these fields are. 18 cars on timing and scoring have recorded laps for this Porsche Cup category. Big plunge down that corkscrew. Again, I'm excited to give this car a try. Again, I think one of the things that drivers really liked about the prior generation of the Porsche Cup car here in iRacing is the lack of driver aids, the lack of ABS in particular. But with that addition of the ABS, a little bit deeper on the brakes, and maybe you get a little bit of an escape route should things go wrong if you get in the pedal a little too late.
Yeah, they're over a second a lap faster than the previous iteration. And fun fact, the previous iteration was actually going to be in this race. When we originally planned it, it was going to be the Ferrari Challenge car, which is ballistically fast, and the older P-Cup. With the new P-Cup coming out, we realized that those cars basically do the same thing. They're going to run very similar lap times. That's not as interesting. So it pivoted to this. And as P-Cup qualifying concludes, both laps completed, looking like Alessandrini comfortably on pole by about 0.8 of a second over Ken House-Seal. The GT3 cars have been released by our live admin, and they're out on their warm-up lap.
Yeah, and we go from the 992.2 Cup car to the 992 GT3, and that is Spicy Cat Racing's Diego Del Rio right now behind the wheel of this car. Wide body, this has got the engine pushed forward a little bit more as the evolutions of Porsche GT3 machinery has changed over time, but FIA spec GT3, you're going to see a ton of variety in this class, including things like the Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT3R, Montello Racing there in this beautiful livery. You've got, again, another Porsche, that's the classic Flying Lizard Motorsports livery, and then, of course, the brand new Ford Mustang GT3. Chris Harp is behind the wheel of this, and going down the order, a couple more Porsches, and how about a McLaren 720S, Mittens Motorsports. This is my personal favorite, Tom. Swoopy, aggressive, and a great sound with that twin-turbo V8.
They look cool. I love the tartan on this car. And speaking of, at the front of the field, we've seen so far in this session, it was actually Zane Kahn from Kahn Coaching who led the way in his Ferrari, the 296. And then Diego Del Real that we saw in the first shot there, the purple Porsche, was 2nd quickest, a couple tenths back. Austin Cobb in a Lamborghini was actually 3rd quickest. We haven't mentioned him yet. Feeling relaxed but excited for this race. He got trapped in Tarkov recently, but he escaped for this race.
And honestly, this Lamborghini, this is not that joke probably went over my head there, Tom. Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
We're gonna have 3 hours. It's gonna happen a lot, I'm sure. But Austin Cobb running the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. This is a car that was not very popular at iRacing for a long time. It seemed like drivers were really fighting with the dynamics. These mid-engine cars can be tricky, but Austin seems to like it, and it makes great noises too.
It's really interesting driving a downforce car that's also, basically a street homologated race car with that much downforce. It's so reliant on the downforce that once you're getting it up into that really knife edge window on the setup, the car wants to move around constantly mechanically, and you have to drive it in a way where the aerodynamics are helping it make the grip. So corners like this, for example, as we drop down Rainy Curve, the back end wants to rotate all the way down, and you're relying on the downforce to keep the car planted and basically have the wheel just super loose in your hands to ride that grip. There's so much time in these GT3 cars that hides because of that.
Final corner for Austin Cobb on his first timed lap. And a few drivers will jump to the top of the scoring pylon. Michael Montello. Interestingly, though, lap 1 for the GT3s, no one has yet gone faster than DJ Alessandrini as far as overall time. I find that kind of fascinating that this new 992.2 Porsche is this quick in overall pace.
It really is, and it's significantly faster than the old version of the car, so that's the biggest adjustment. But as I mentioned earlier, or alluded to, it basically means we have 2 really fast classes and 1 slower class rather than a fast, middle, and slow. So expect a lot of overlap from the top of the Porsche Cups, that middle class, to the back end of the GT3s. But the other thing to talk about is iRacing's been doing quite a bit of work on their tire modeling, and one of the updates that they've done is really leaned into the cold tire modeling. They don't have tire warmers on them anymore, and they're simulating what seems to be primarily the Michelin slick in real world that comes up over the first maybe 2 to 5 laps on some of these cars. If you've watched any IMSA race this year, particularly the GTP cars in real life, really show this. They look like an absolute nightmare to drive on those first opening laps. The GT3 cars in the game, not nearly as bad, but they do have some of that. It's going to take a couple of laps to get the tire temps up. So really in qualifying, I don't think we're going to see the top pace of these cars from GT3 or, for that fact, GT4. The Porsche Cup's a little better, but as we come to complete the second lap for Zane Khan, he's on provisional pole for a moment, but completes the second lap. Coming across the line, though, things are going to get spicy. Speaking of, Diego Del Real goes to the top. Ultra Yeti Racing for Austin Cobb goes to second. Does Khan Coaching get another lap in? It doesn't look like it. Sitting fourth, maybe, after bailing off. But it's actually Freddie De La Rosa in a Mercedes that leaps himself into the third position.
Yeah, so really solid lap there by Freddie De La Rosa. And, you kind of touched on the tire situation here. They're sort of emulating the Michelin slick to some extent. Do you have any indication of what pit stop strategy as far as tire choice will be for this 3-hour event? I'd imagine that you'd take at least tires once, knowing that we'll probably have to pit twice.
Yeah, great question. It's also, it's a little bit of an unknown, to be honest. It tends to be in a sim racing environment, you just practice your laps, right? And I don't know that, I would be shocked if a majority of this field has actually practiced a proper pit stop with that, or even a full fuel run at that point. But we do know for a fact that in GT3 and in GT4, the tires and the fueling happen at the same time. So those are basically, as long as you fuel fully, the tires are essentially free as far as the time stopped in the pit lane is concerned. However, the Porsche Cup cars change separately. So they're going to fuel and then put the tires on, which means you kind of have to pick, do I want the tires? How necessary are they? Do they last long enough? It's going to be pretty interesting, and we're hearing nearly 30 seconds to get tires changed after the fueling is done in the P-Cups. That's going to be a big separator for that class versus the other two. In general, the fuel has been limited to basically a 45-minute stint, so we're expecting 3 pit stops per team. We may have up to 4 drivers per team, but overall, we'll expect that pit lane to start getting super busy, maybe just after the 40-minute mark.
Richard Sawicki and the Team Sawicki McLaren 720S, one of the last drivers on the racetrack. Ben Galashan in the Team Ben Galashan car, creative team name there, buddy. Running 14th in class at car number 49. And just a minute and a half left on the scoring here, and Sawicki's got time to do one more lap before the timer runs out, and that is going to be a 1:23.667, puts him 17th in class. I'm sure he'll want more than that.
Yeah, we're looking at less than 2 seconds separating outside the top 10, so really competitive here in GT3, but really the top 3 or 4 have kind of separated themselves. Still Diego Del Real at the top in the number 22 Porsche, the Lamborghini of Austin Cobb second, the Freddie De La Rosa sharing that car with, I believe, Luke McGrew and Emil Tab. A little bit later in this race, it's third in the Mercedes, then it's the Ferrari of Zaid Khan, Michael Montello in the Corvette rounding out the top 5. But Richard Sawicki was sending us pictures of his new sim rig being assembled essentially past like midnight last night. So he's on a whole new setup of sim rig stuff. Lots to get used to there. You basically change the cockpit of car you're sitting into once you change your hardware like that. So a little bit of a learning curve for Sawicki. More so than just trying to get up to speed with this car in this class.
Watch this. This is going through turn 6 just now here for Richard Sawicki. Watch right here in the middle of turn 6. Watch that neutral steer and a little understeer on corner exit. I noticed that through the Andretti hairpin as well. He was waiting on the nose to come around. And there's a lot of stability in the slow speed corners for him, but maybe pushing the nose. And that when you got to put a lot of wheel in it, maybe giving it that oversteer feeling there when the car gets a little light.
Big time. And the other thing you have to watch out for, this is kind of a simulator thing, but the tires have an interesting, I don't know if you call it a feature, but symptom where when you slide, the surface temp goes really, really hot. Did he just miss it out?
He missed it by half a second.
Bummer.
Oh, man.
But anyway, that surface gets super hot, and the tire has no grip for maybe another couple of 10, 15 seconds tops. So when you go for those little slides, yes, there's driver aids. Yes, the car might still be gripping, but you've taken life out of the tire for a couple of seconds. It might make the next corner a little sketchy. When you see cars sliding like that, they're really in a high-risk situation.
Well, the field is gridding up here for the Sim Lizard 3-hour presented by Spicy Cat Racing. Kyle Hire joined by Tom O'Gorman for this 3-hour event. About 134 laps on the predictive, but who knows what it's going to look like by the end of all this. It's going to be a lot of revolutions around here. Big field, and again, what's the old adage? To finish first, you must first finish. I mean, it sounds cliche, but this is a tight racetrack for 53 cars on the grid, Tom. I don't even think IMSA would give this a try.
No, it's definitely asking a lot. And you know, the first time someone participating really said that out loud, wait, there's going to be 60 cars at Laguna with 3 classes. We're like, oh, yep, that's what we're asking of you. Keep it clean, you know? So we've given some advice. There's been a lot of drivers meeting notes being shared just on how to be predictable, how to communicate your intentions, especially between classes. But I completely agree. I think that this race will be determined mostly by good choices in racecraft and losing as little time as possible. The main thing that I think will determine that is the first time the GT3 cars catch the GT4 cars. What does that tone set? What does that look like? And then that will probably carry on for the rest of the, let's call it 2 hours, 15 minutes or so.
Well, as far as overall times, DJ Alessandrini was the 6th quickest car. And to your point, you know, we talked about the mixing of the Porsche Cup cars and the GT3s. They are basically just intermixed. There's no real spot where it's like, you know, becomes clearly defined which class is which. So they're going to race together, and it's going to, I don't know that we'll see a lot of GT3s lapping 992s, you know, in waves. It's just that GT4 class that's going to make things very interesting. So I think we're going to have a lot to learn, a lot of fun stuff. I said 53, I meant 55. It is a big field here. And another check on the weather. It is 71 on the racetrack, 67 in the air. So again, it hasn't really changed a whole lot here, Tom, but over the next 3 hours, we're going to get to see a lot of action. Let's roll through the starting lineup. There'll be overall order here bringing us through the field, and we'll kick things off with Diego Del Real in the Porsche 911 GT3 R992. Austin Cobb will start alongside him in that front row. Then Freddie De La Rosa and Zane Khan sharing row number 2 with Michael Montello. And it'll be Scuderia Chickenhouse Sam Mayorga in row number 3. But there's DJ Alessandrini starting there in first for the Porsche 992 class here, Tom, and running down the rest of the order. Notable drivers along the way.
Yeah, so we're going to look at actually a 2-wave start here. All the GT3 cars will start in the first wave, 1 warm-up lap, so we're coming to green in probably about a minute's time here. Then the second wave will be manually started by our live admin. That's going to be the Porsche Cup cars at the front and the GT4 cars at the back. So these cars will already start with about a 20-second spread between the first class and the second 2. That will make the GT4 cars, basically, they're going to get caught even faster as a product of that.
Down the rest of the order here as drivers are frantically trying to get some heat in the tires. 71 track temp's pretty low, and you talked about how, you know, the tire needs a little bit of temperature. You don't want to go into turn 1 with cold tires. You don't get, you know, 3 or 4 warm-up laps like you do in the real world, so you got to make do with what you have. And that run to the Andretti hairpin, that's a nerve-wracking one. I think by the time you get to the corkscrew, you kind of want to get settled in and start kind of run. Look at all the gravel on the run up from turn 6 to the corkscrew. That's another concern as well, is how much gravel will get spread across this course. You know, I've seen it over the years get tweaked here in iRacing to be, You know, sometimes it's a bigger deal, sometimes you don't even notice it, but when there's a ton of it on the racetrack in a low grip corner, I can see that being problematic.
And it's only going to get worse. That's definitely a phase of the game that we're in where the gravel modeling is really, really intense. If the track looked like that offline, they'd stop the race and go sweep it, right? But not here. It's just going to get really, really dusty and dirty on the track. Coming to the green flag, Diego Del Real, Austin Cobb, side by side. I expect jockeying positions for the first couple of laps here, but once we hit lap traffic, it's going to be really difficult to gain positions. Oh, this is going to be exciting.
3 hours for the Sim Lizard 3 hour, presented by Spicy Cat Racing. This is for the Sim Lizards. This is going to be a frantic battle. Team racing and single drivers going solo today. Green flag, and we're underway. And already, look at this. Khan, and it goes to the outside on the initial start. And we storm down towards the Andretti hairpin, Tom.
Oh, big move for Sam Mayorga, putting himself in the middle in the yellow Ferrari as well. We want to keep this clean. We're 3 wide, though. Khan gets a little bit of the shoulder from Austin Cobb. I think he did that to himself. And the fastest car for practice is dropping now outside the top 6, perhaps, side by side, a little bit further back. And now 20 seconds behind these guys, the Porsche Cup Sim GT4s have gotten the green flag.
Yeah, nice orderly here, 2 by 2. Noah's Ark into the Andretti hairpin. Alessandrini's going to poke his nose ahead of Ken House Seal. Don't think we've seen any contact in this group, so all has gone okay. No major contacts. Richard Sawicki's around at the exit of turn 4, but it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of damage. And all the while, the GT4 field looks like they are now storming their way in contact and slip, slide, crash. And Kobe Harvey is the one that's in the wall there.
Tough stuff to start off the race. For the simulator drivers, we do have 1 fast repair on. We also have an incident limit. We can talk about that as people start to approach it, but things are already spreading out a little bit here in GT3. Diego Del Real, Austin Cobb, both looking very confident in their cold tires. Another car off at the bottom of the corkscrew, looks like maybe spun right. That's Tim Govier, and has some left rear damage.
Yeah, unfortunate. That is going to be probably significant to sort that out early in this race, especially if you've got a team. You're just hoping that your teammates all sort of understand the lack of immediate rush on the green flag of this. Little contact there between one of the BMWs, but otherwise, for a field this big, pretty solid start. Alessandrini leads the 992 field into turn 11. Lap 1 is complete.
He's got his sights set on the back of GT3s more than anything else, and that little contact we saw was from Ethan Holland, the 502. Pretty harmless stuff, but that's the big stack up that you get down there in turn number 11. You think it was awkward with just 1 class, imagine 2 or 3 all in the same real estate. Quick fast repair for...
That was Khan.
I'm saying Khan, yeah. He's maybe picked up some damage with that contact with Cobb early in the stint, and that's really going to set him back big time in this race.
Up front in GT3, Austin Cobb is hounding Diego Del Real here. Up turn 6 and heading towards the corkscrew.
Oh, big rotation from Cobb through turn 6. That was beautiful. Backs off the brakes nice and early to make sure he doesn't get into the back of that Porsche. And honestly, Freddie De La Rosa is really keeping these guys honest. The Mercedes lurking in the background. We basically heard from anybody who tried it that it is not the car for this track simply because it's so low. It's just constantly bottoming out through this downhill run. Seems like Freddie De La Rosa has figured something out on that Mercedes to keep it working. Otherwise, that car tends to be a pretty good favorite. So how close he's staying.
So far, keeping things really tidy and tight up here. A little side-by-side. Is that Kevin Zhu with a bit of a slowdown, perhaps, through the corkscrew? That allows Matt Waldbaum to go on by in the 992 class.
Looking like the battle for about 4th. They've dropped to 5th now with that small exchange between Zhu and Waldbaum. We're going to see Zach Rubin back in the Castrol car a little bit later, and then Ryan Christoph will also be driving that neon yellow and green Matt Waldbaum machine, the Toff-Baum racing car. He's getting a little clunky towards the back of GT3 for Roman Baikov. A little moment there.
Yeah, just, again, I would say a lockup, but again, with the ABS, just got into turn 11 just a hair too hot. And playing whack-a-mole on the timing screen right now because there's just a lot going on around the racetrack. Here's Frederick Goupil in the number 42, the Never Forget car, just ahead of Dana Basinski in the Buc-ee's Porsche. Great action off the nose here. I think that is Zane Khan just ahead as well.
I think Dana and Piro are trying to, Piro Pucci also driving this car, trying to trigger me with the Buc-ee's. Oh, awkward stuff for Zane Khan, working his way after that fast repair, puts himself right in the middle of the Porsche Cup class. And you can see that Ferrari just having a hard time getting by anybody in the Porsche Cup cars. That's how similar they can be, except for these high-speed corners. The downforce of the Ferrari's going to kick in. He gets a run through and finally is able to establish position to pick up one more spot, working his way back towards the back of GT3.
Yeah, but on the straightaways, those 992 Cup cars are really fast. So, again, you almost lost that drag race to the corkscrew. So even though he can carry more speed through 6, if the top speeds are high, that becomes tough math to outrun them. All the while in GT4, keep an eye on them. It's Huge Ass's Alex Cofford out in front. Richard McDonald is second, but the battles here are not quite as fierce at the pointy end, although I think Christopher Murray's had a problem here in the Ford Mustang.
Awkward spot to end up on the entry to the corkscrew. Take a look at it as he's coming through. Maybe some help from the back on this Mercedes. Yeah, miscommunication as the cars cross the track naturally through there. And the Mercedes shows the nose, and that gap quickly disappears as that's naturally where the car ahead is going to try to brake and end up. Oh, another issue for the 44. Franz Hansen, I think, having a self-spin, maybe got a little bit of help down in turn 10.
Yeah, Franz Hansen, and that's going to cause another car to go spinning off to the right. That's the 98 Liberty Bells Porsche, but just trying to, tighten up the corner radius and puts her off to driver's right. And the leader is going by. Sorry, Paula Wojcik behind the wheel of that car just got a little spooked with what might have been happening there and lost the back end. So that's our first lap. GT3s have put on a GT4 car, let's say, but they've still got a little bit of a gap up to the back of the real field. Diego Del Real is controlling this field nicely. Austin Cobb lurking in the background. You got to start to wonder, a 3-hour race, even though there's no chance of a full course yellow, and even though the fueling is pretty straightforward if you just to break it up into 45-minute stints, for a driver like Austin Cobb, you may be fuel saving a little bit, knowing that you can maybe accomplish a bit of an over-under on the pit stop itself. If he can fuel possibly a gallon less, maybe he'll pick up a position over Diego when that pit stop round comes through. Yeah, knowing that there's not full course yellows, I think that's a savvy driver to immediately know that, hey, I'm in this position where I can fight really, really hard if I want to, but at the same time, saving fuel is going to help me in the long run. Any time that you can save in the pit lane today is going to advance you on the racetrack. And, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca doesn't have these crazy long straightaways where it makes passing super easy. So if you can make, passes or at least make up some ground in the pit lane, it'll save you a lot of effort on the racetrack. Absolutely. I do want to also mention, we talked about the straight line speed between the GT3 and the Porsche Cup cars. Really, the GT4 cars are not that slow in a straight line. It's just the lack of downforce, the entry speed and apex speed where those cars start to lose their pace. But really, even if you're in a Porsche Cup or a GT3 car, it takes a couple of straights to get by a GT4 car at times, especially when they're running in a pack. This is the battle for ninth. And the leaders right now, the 22 car is the leader. I'm just having a look on my track map to see where they are on course. They're actually about to really get into some fairly heavy traffic, and they already have caught the tail of the GT4 field, and you see those headlights are flashing. This is where the race is going to be won or lost. Being smart, being patient when it counts, being aggressive when it counts, but always being one step ahead of the cars around you. You need to communicate clearly what you're going to do, or else you're going to risk a lot of pain. I don't want to make it sound too bad, but you're going to, it's really easy to have a small incident, just lose you tons of time or even take you out of the race. And I don't know that you're going to have a lot of breathing room today with the fields this big. Again, we started with 55. I can tell you that all 55 cars are still running. So even though there have been some drivers that had some offs and things, no one's thrown in the towel already in the first 8 minutes of this race. And that means that it's going to get busy. You're going to get tired. You're going to start making mistakes, especially if you're soloing this. It's just the mental exhaustion I think is what's going to wear on people later in this event. Yeah, especially the drivers doing it by themselves. I had a kind of a funny moment with DJ talking about this race on the podcast. I was like, I noticed a lot of drivers are doing this race by themselves. Why do you think they don't want to team up? And he's like, well, if you could do a 3-hour race by yourself, you would, wouldn't you? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess in real life I would, yeah. Race car drivers like to have control of their lives. Yes, 100%. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe a full third of this field doing the race by themselves, which is, not a huge ask, 3 hours, but it is a long time. Here's Mitch Crowther in the Mittens Motorsports McLaren 720S. Brian Lemke in the BMW tracking him down, and then a Ford Mustang in trail. I love the diversity of modern GT3. Every car's got its characteristics. They all look unique. They all sound different. It's a really fun class globally. I know we had some really unique GT classes over motorsports history, but I think GT3 is probably set for sustainability the longest. Brian Lorman there in the green and orange Mustang doing a really nice job to communicate. He's getting offline. He's letting these GT3 cars through. We're currently watching the battle for
right at 10th in class. I think Mitch Crowther leading the way over Brian Lemke. Chris Harp is also in this train in the blue and white Mustang. And they're coming up on Franz Hansen, who also glues himself to the left side of the tracks, tells everyone, that's where I'm going, that's where I'm staying. And it leaves him the nice, clean line into the corkscrew.
Lemke's going to go the long way around at Rainy Curve. Back in the 992 category, this is Brandon Dreyer, Dana Basinski, and Roman Bykov. This is a three-way battle for 10th place in this class.
This is good stuff. Everybody just tucked up underneath each other. My experience with Laguna Seca, it takes laps and laps and laps of knocking on the door before a passing opportunity can appear. Sometimes it will take a lap traffic or a faster car to get involved for these drivers to really see any effect, because the cars have just been so close throughout the whole field. The car at the front of this train is actually Valdis Vencevicius. I apologize, Valdis, how badly I said that, but got a little bit of a breathing room over Brandon Dreyer. Frederick Lupul is in this train, right in the middle, the blue car, and then Dana Basinski, Roman Bykov also just absolutely glued together down the front straight. We're just 10 minutes into this one, Kyle.
Yeah. Great start to this race. Battles continue up at the front of the field in GT3. No changes here other than Diego Del Real's actually gained a little ground, 1.3 seconds on Austin Cobb as they continue to navigate traffic, and Cobb facing maybe just a little bit of pressure from that Mercedes AMG in trail. And three different kinds of vehicles. You've got the rear engine Porsche, you've got the mid-engined Lamborghini, and of course the front mid-engine Mercedes AMG running in third place at the moment.
Working their way by Noah Massey, doing a nice job in the BMW. We saw that car involved in the first lap contact between turns 3 and 4. It doesn't look like that car has been repaired, so maybe just dealing with the consequences of that until the first pit stop. I'm really impressed so far with Freddie De La Rosa in this Mercedes. It's kind of brought the fight to the top two cars that we would have assumed were a factor in this race. It'll be interesting to see how Luke McGrew and I think Emil Tab also joining this car over the 3 hours, how that ebbs and flows. The other two cars definitely doing it by themselves for Del Real and Cobb.
Lemke and Crowther, little battle here going off into the Andretti hairpin. Late on the brakes for the BMW. Is it too much too deep? No, keeps it tucked in and completes that pass. Whoa, little chop and weave there, getting back on the racing line. And how about even deeper in the GT3 field? Skid Mark Sim Racing Blue and NYR Motorsport, little side by side.
This car's also dealing with the top 2 or 3 cars in the Porsche Cup category. You see Alessandrini just ahead, making a move on one of the GT4 Mustangs, and then just behind these two also is Ken House-Seal, the second place driver in the Porsche Cup cars, the last car in line there. Will pop for the GT3 car to get the inside on the Mustang. And they're all going to get through nice and clean.
And there's Zane Khan, started 4th in class, now back in 17th. Last time by, his lap was, again, about 97 miles an hour average speed to the 98 that he had run. That converts to about 1 minute and 21 seconds, 0.5, which was actually 2 seconds faster than the leader. That's the ebb and flow of traffic management. A lot of dust and debris on the front straightaway. Here's John Chrissy and Sam Mayorga.
Drag race, and this is where things get spicy because we come over a blind crest, what is essentially a single file front straightaway, down into a very wide braking zone. Just by the nature of the cars fading across from right to left and then back to the right, everyone clean and clear there so far. But it looks like the Porsche with a little bit better pace, at least in the front half of this race. We've seen basically all the Porsche GT3s having strong starts that we've noticed so far.
Oh, right in the middle of turn 4, though, gets caught out. That's going to give Mayorga a nice run, but he's going to split the GT4 on the right and the Porsche on the left into 5.
Good stuff right through the middle of a battle in GT4. The Ferrari drops a tire off that curb and is going to lose the opportunity to pass up the inside. No, shoves it in there, absolutely wedges the door open for himself and just gets through. The Porsche did not appreciate that, but that's just the reality sometimes. You never know when a lunge like that can make or break your race. It's equally likely to do either.
I think for the drivers today, even though the talent level and skill level across this field is really high, I think basically every driver in the top category is going to think every driver in the low categories are, not paying attention, and then all the drivers in the slower cars are going to say all the drivers in the fast cars are crazy. They're all going to be mad at each other at the end. But it feels really good to pull off a nice clean pass on traffic, but it's going to be the vast minority of the interactions you have today just because we're jamming a bunch of fighter jets in a cereal bowl here.
Yeah, it's true, and it's kind of interesting when you look at the nature of how these cars make speed. Still really, this is just going to be what it looks like for the next 2.5 hours, I think. But It really does pay off for the faster cars to be that aggressive. It almost pays off for the slower cars to be first aware of that and then facilitate it, I think, in my experience. And as bad as that might feel for the slower cars, in a way, you kind of have to think for the faster cars because they're more likely to just be way too greedy and way too aggressive. And it's more likely to affect the slower cars race if they try to match that energy, if that makes sense.
Zane Khan carrying a black flag, not sure what for, but this has gone from bad to worse for a car that was really quick in practice and qualifying, and then on the opening lap of the race got some damage, came down to repair that, and now has picked up some sort of penalty that they'll have to come back down pit lane and serve.
Live admin noting contact with car number 772 on lap 1, turn 8. So maybe that's where he also picked up the damage. But for the Zane Khan car, the Khan coaching, runs his own coaching business in sim, it sounds like. New driver for us, definitely not the race that he was looking for, but he certainly made his mark being one of the fastest cars, especially in practice.
And Brandon Dreyer has also picked up a penalty, which will put Dana Basinski and Stephen Lee up a position when he comes to serve that. Those two kind of took a swipe at each other just a second ago. Here's a look at this. This is going out of turn 1 and into turn 3 between Basinski and Stephen Lee.
Basinski nearly with a wheelie off the first corner there, hitting the curb, and then he gets a really good run. Lee was a little bit wide in the third corner there, but keeps the nose to the outside. Basinski doing a nice job leaving him space to be. He didn't know if he was clear or not, but he does pick up the position. This is just outside the top 5 in Porsche Cup.
Zane Khan heading down pit lane, so he will serve that penalty this time around. Up at the front of the field, Diego Del Real's advantage of over 1.5 seconds has slimmed back down to just 2.5 tenths of a second.
Surprised to see these cars alone in the shot, actually. There's no one around them right now. And I got to wonder, does Austin Cobb maybe have a little bit more pace in that for a Lamborghini over the run? Once they've gotten in clear traffic, it looks like he closed back up, or perhaps we just missed Diego Del Real getting hung up a little bit in traffic. De La Rosa keeping him honest, still in third.
Last time around, Austin Cobb ran his best lap of the race, a 1:20.874, where Diego Del Real ran within 1/10 of his best lap, so they're definitely got tires up the temp, they're in clear traffic, but it seems like Cobb has just a hair more pace, though that time advantage back to Real. That was his best lap of the race.
That's the cool part about these long races is not only do you have opportunities in the pits, but also in traffic. You can lose or gain seconds of time to your rival, but just taking swipes at these at each other on these hot laps, you can kind of nickel and dime, but you can grab fistfuls of cash out of someone else's pocket if you nail the pit stop or the traffic just right.
That Mustang going a little slow down the hill. That is the number 2. Brian Taylor. I'm not exactly sure if there was a slowdown or what happened here. This is going into turn 6 just a moment ago. I wonder if maybe it was a corkscrew cut potentially.
Yeah, that looks likely. Tyler Porter just in front. Richard Sawicki shows the nose early, and actually the Mustang just kind of gets out of the way. We encourage embracing the race, but that was more of a greeting at the door. Here, come on in.
Heading back into some traffic. The car ahead of them. Just trying to see what car that could possibly be.
It's one of the trailing Porsche Cup cars. Looks like Gavin Griffith running in, not even sure in class. He's 35th overall.
P15, that would be.
Go. And I do want to shout out.
Sorry, the Austin Cobb got into the corks or the Andretti hairpin real hot there and closed up on Diego Del Real. Almost got into the rear bumper. And there is going to be some contact here, and the pressure's on.
There's the difference in the entry speed these cars can carry. If you're not confident in the Porsche Cup car, it really does fall apart on entry relative to the GT3 cars. Diego Del Real not quite prepared for how slow the Porsche was going to be on entry to turn 3, and I don't think he picked up any contact. Front end of that car looks okay, but it did open the door for Austin Cobb to really put the pressure on.
There's battles everywhere. Look at this. This is down into the Andretti hairpin. This is for 11th in GT3, and there goes Zach Pritchard past Ethan Holland. There's people fighting everywhere, and for the lead, again, I thought Austin Cobb might have had a look at him there. I think Diego's having a tough time with his internet, which is, again, over the course of 3 hours, you got to have that stick too. You don't have tire failures, engine failures, parts failures, but that's sort of the equivalent in the sim racing world.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. It truly is. If your internet goes down, it's like your engine going. But while they're on the straight, I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple people. Obviously, thank you, Kyle, for doing this. But Finney and Dakuna, I know, helped you out with the cameras and some of the stream stuff. That beautiful livery we saw in Gavin Griffin's car is from Jay DeVries. He's did a bunch of Lizard Brains liveries, including the one on DJ Alessandrini's car as well. And then also our live admin is Paul Darling. Thanks to him for watching that out. DJ Alessandrini on the Zoom. This is what a sim lizard looks like in its natural habitat.
There's the habitat. Getting after it right now.
Don't tap on the glass.
Don't want to get the claw. What do they call the pads on the lizards? The little gecko pads? What are those things?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to Google it.
We need the terminology. But I really should have put with a lizard button in. That would have been an extra cherry on top.
DJ was saying we weren't fully sure how many people were going to do Porsche Cups. There was fewer than 10 on the quote-unquote entry list, let's say, but a bunch of people pivoted to this car over the last week, and he said it's equally fun to just navigate through the back of GT3. He was making a pass there on the McLaren. That's out of class, but it is for overall position. This is technically a slower car, but it is going to give every single Porsche Cup car a bit of a rabbit to chase in any GT3 cars around them.
DJ continues to lead in the 992 category. Sparks flying from the Burning Bell Motorsport. Oh, I thought that was that car, but it is actually the huge-ass GT4 leader. That's Alex Cofford. We haven't really talked a lot about GT4 at the moment, but that is now the second lap down, I believe. Actually, he's going a lap down to the 992 leader, and brake lights flashing, and Alex has about a 12-second advantage over Michael Brock in the Apex This Slim Lizards Porsche.
And just from that exchange, I think some of that might have come less from raw pace, but just from making sure he doesn't lose time in traffic. That Mustang doing a really nice job of maintaining his pace, but making it very easy for cars to get around, at least in that shot. It may not be that way every single time. And then it's another couple seconds back to Richard McDonald flying the Scottish flag. This is their first sim race with us, but it sounds like they're all pretty experienced sim racers in that RMS with Rev Match Gold car. Rounding out the top 5 in GT4 is this car with Thomas Lathrop, Raul Iriarte going to be getting in it in a little while, and then the Backflip Boys just behind. That's Alex Bueller in the Hot Wheels car running 5th.
And for the lead, getting interesting here, Diego Del Real still on top, but Austin Cobb and Freddie De La Rosa within half a second here, and they're back in traffic. This time it's 992s, and this is where I think the math starts to get a lot harder, because these cars aren't going to be as easy to blow by down the straightaways. So we'll see how Diego, Austin, and Freddie hang on to this. They're 9 seconds clear of Michael Montello in the Corvette in 4th.
And I'll tell you, as I was getting up to speed, I did a practice session with these drivers a little earlier this week. I was genuinely stuck behind a fast Porsche Cup car for laps before I found a way by where I would end up maybe 10th GT3 car in this race anyway. maybe top 5, but it is genuinely difficult to get by, especially if these cars end up somewhere near, the Ken Houseals, the Alessandrinis, those top 5 drivers in Porsche Cup. The lap times are just so close. Zach Sevier still running 3rd in Porsche Cup. Matthew Morhart 4th. Kevin Zhu has gotten in, or started this race, for 5th. But we're watching the battle for, the bottom half of the top 10 in GT3. Zach Pritchard with a good move from 11th. Deep on the brakes with the big BMW.
Chris Harp has a great view of this between BMW and McLaren. Flames shooting out the back of the McLaren, as is typical for that British mark. Not quite as much as the MP412C, though. That thing was you could cook marshmallows on in the paddock.
That was just a PNG that appeared and went away, I think.
Yeah.
But interesting, the McLaren feeling the pressure from the Mustang, defending into turn 3, kind of got him a poor run off that corner, and is now fallen back into the clutches of the Mustang, very much so, as they continue to battle for 10th, 11th, and 12th. That's allowed that Mitch Crowther car, the BMW of Zach Pritchard, to get away a little bit.
And buried in that group is the second place 992. That's the Liberty Bell husband's car, Ken Househeel. He's also facing occasional internet discontinuity issues, but all on his own right now. And again, the battles seem to have, the chaos of the early race has kind of gone away. And now that we're, 25 minutes into this, it seems like people have sort of found their rhythm and groove.
That makes me really happy. A little slip for Austin Cobb. He's going to pick up a 1X there. I should go through that quickly. We do have in iRacing, an incident point, if you go off track, you get 1. If you touch somebody, you can get up to 4. If you receive 30 for your team in this race, you'll get a drive-through penalty. If you receive 50 of those incident points, you'll be disqualified. So we came up with those numbers based on past races. You know, there were a couple teams that were absolute menaces that got 90 incident points. We figured a DQ at 50 is pretty fair. But Austin Cobb is really trying to keep the pressure on. Tight stuff through the apex of turn 10. Diego Del Real gets a nice, clean run. Freddie De La Rosa is going to get the nose up underneath as well. But I think Real is going to get maybe 2 or 3 car lengths from that exchange.
Yeah, the thing to note about that incident limit is, you know, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca kind of race is narrow, and I think it's a little easier to get off tracks here than, you know, the last race we did at Road Atlanta or Sebring, for example, where there's a lot of pavement, and if you go off track, you basically smash into something. Here at Laguna Seca, you know, this is, you know, pre the runoff expansions where, you know, especially places like turn 6, it's really easy to run a little wide. Turn 4, same story there. So drivers will have to be conscious of that. But I like that. I like that you have to be conscious of the track limits, and you can't just unwind the wheel and carry 2 tires in the dirt every lap, because it just covers the track with gravel. It doesn't look very good, and you're just sort of opening yourself up to, you know, to spin out back across the road to collect somebody else.
Ooh, speaking of lunges, getting into somebody else, that was tight stuff between the 35 and the 61. This is Nick Reynolds in the Porsche defending from Tyler Satterfeld in the Mercedes, sitting 16th and 17th in class. Actually, that's overall, so they're 15th and 16th in class.
Yep. Just noting also just a moment ago as the Satterfeld came into turn 1, look at the brake rotors on this Mercedes AMG already glowing. Which is interesting to me. Again, your top speeds here aren't crazy fast, Tom, but they don't have a lot of time to cool the brakes off. Not a huge storyline, because in iRacing the effects of brake fade are really minimal, but it looks cool, so that's fun. But it's interesting to note that different cars seem to be using more front brake than others. Certainly this Porsche is not using quite as much.
Right, and you don't see glowing brakes very often in the daytime, really only in Grid Life Street GT. Those big fast cars on their little brakes, they are always glowing at daytime, but couldn't agree more with that. A little bit of internet flickering here and there. It's a feature of sim racing. These guys continuing to battle for a top 15 in class, working their way down the hill. We're coming up on 30 minutes in. Remember that the fuel window is set to about 45 minute, 46 minute. If you save, you might get 47 or 48, that extra lap out of it. But we're settling into the middle of this stint before that first set of pit stops will undoubtedly jumble things up.
A lot of traffic for the race leaders right now in GT3, climbing up towards the corkscrew. And big lunge for Austin Cobb, trying to get to the inside of the Porsche, put himself offline, contact, and around goes the GT4.
And I think that was 3rd place in GT4, maybe even 2nd place. I think Michael Brock just got that touch. Yeah, he was 2nd place in GT4 and is now going to drop to 5th.
That was Richard. Is it Richard McDonald driving that car, rather? Or no, he had his own incident here. Sorry, that was the wrong. Yeah, so he had gone off separate. What was the car number on the one that spun? I didn't quite get a look at it.
The 172 was the one that got the touch from Freddie De La Rosa. That was just really tough stuff. They already had the inside line for that train of GT3 cars. De La Rosa well far back, but I think at this point for the Porsche, you can kind of assume that there's going to be 2 GT cars coming through, not 1. Kind of awkward stuff. That's why we encourage as much as possible to communicate what you're going to be doing and embracing the race when you think someone might go side by side.
So that's going to break up the battle for the front in GT3 just a touch. Austin Cobb now at 9/10 back from Diego Del Real. DJ Alessandrini still well on his own in 9.92, but just to note, he is 4 seconds off his best lap that time around. At least that's what timing and scoring was showing me. He came across the line just 2 seconds slower, but that's how much the traffic will affect things. And how about this gaggle into turn 11? Reynolds, Kane, and Satterfield. And I'll tell you, Kane has pit twice, and he's still P15 in class. I'm actually impressed he's been able to rebound this well already.
That's the red, white, and blue Ferrari down the inside, following the Porsche down. They're almost going to go 3 wide. The Mercedes really confident on the brakes, but I think the Ferrari will still pick up this position on exit as long as the Porsche doesn't hold him up. Yes, indeed. But yeah, I agree. This driver was fastest in practice. He had some bad luck and some contact early on, but to be on the lead lap with 2 trips through the pit lane, there is a 1 fast repair already used on that car, so it should be fresh and ready to go. Gets a run out of turn 4. They're going to be side by side for turn 5 now as the Porsche moves way, way over. Oh, they're completely on the opposite ends of the track. Ooh. So difficult to see where people are when that's happening. Add a GT4 car in for the mix.
Yeah, surprise GT4. You're just challenging each other into the braking zone. I think that's easy to do as well. If you're side by side with someone in your category and you're just having your typical braking duel and all of a sudden, bam, there's a GT4 car in your way and you're already committed, that can also bring some excitement into the mix. But Austin Cobb, I really do think he has more pace than Diego Del Real, but he's got to find a way to get around him. Or does he? I mean, you talked about the goal of saving fuel as well, especially with a slightly limited tank. So that could be Austin Cobb's MO here.
Yeah, if he saves another maybe gallon, you could either go longer and try to do an over-under on the track, or you could pit at the same time, fuel a little bit less, and do the over-under in pit lane. So there are some options there, and I got to say, this kind of format is not super common. You kind of have to seek this type of race out in iRacing, or else you're not going to see them very much. So the whole pit strategy and the whole way the fueling can work is not necessarily in the wheelhouse of the average iRacer. If you didn't do some practice or have done some of these races before, you may lose out on the opportunity to play those games. I think both of these drivers are going to be pretty confident, and it's nice to see Freddie De La Rosa did not drop too far back from that little touch with the GT4 car.
Matt Waldbaum working his way through some traffic there. There's the number 4 GT4, big squeeze there beside Nathan Traxler. He'll go on by, down the order from where he started in class, 6th, now 13th.
When they're coming up on a really good battle for GT4, this is for second place. Thomas Lathrop and Michael Brock are just ahead. That's the 2 Caymans on the outside of the track here, with some GT3s and Porsche Cup cars working their way through. So currently, Lathrop in the Rising Edge car sits. Second place, really tight stuff with the Ferrari.
Yeah, it's just throwing all these race cars in a blender. I think this is really unique just because the 992s and the GT3s are running basically the same lap times, but just in different ways. And then the GT4 is sort of the outlier there. So they're having to judge the pace, but the way that the car from behind is catching them changes based on what kind of class car it is behind them.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the end of my thought.
I know we're asking a lot of these drivers with this combo, and we're expecting a lot of the drivers with this combo. So far, I think for the most part, expectations are being met. But just imagine, Kyle, doing this. GT3s are the slow cars, P2s and GTP cars. They do that race in real life. That's just, it has to be so insane. This is a little bit of a step down from that, of course, on pace, but it looks equally chaotic.
Yeah, but there is a grand total of 0 platinum FIA-rated drivers in here right now, so it's extra impressive, to say the least. But Diego Del Real's got some traffic here. It might hold him up because there's not really anywhere to go. So Austin Cobb, if he times this right and wants the lead right here, big throttle push, and he's going to try to split the difference here.
Oh, this is big. Next to the Liberty Bell League GT4 cars, side-by-side braking duel down into turn 5. Cobb keeps the nose there on track out. Is he just going to fall off? No, Diego lets him stay there. It's headlight over taillight, brake light overlap, and Diego Del Real is going to close the door into 6.
That was great defense from the Spicy Cat Racing car out in the lead. But far from over here, Austin Cobb is ready to race, braking into the corkscrew, and it's half a car length between them as they plunge down the hill. And there is so much traffic. Again, started with 55 cars, all 55 still running at 33 minutes in.
There's the top 3 in GT3 in this camera shot. Essentially, we've got Diego Del Real in white and purple Porsche leading the way over Austin Cobb in that Ultra Yeti. Fun fact, AI-generated livery. Austin loves AI. I'm shocked he did that. And then Freddie De La Rosa in the purple and yellow black Mercedes, just a little bit back there, just pops into frame with a lapped Ferrari in the way, in the middle, excuse me, not in the way. But so far, I got to say, I'm really impressed with how aware everybody seems so far. It's always tight. You can make tight maneuvers that are pretty low risk as long as everybody's aware of what's going on. And so far, we've seen mostly that happening.
Yeah, I can agree with that. A lot of great decision making, and there have been some tight and tense moments, but for the most part, pretty savvy driving happening around the racetrack. Here's Valdis Vancevicius in the Variant Sim Sports car, then Roman Bykov right in trail. I really want to give this 992 a go. I think this will be a lot of fun. I really kind of liked not having the ABS, but I do think, from what I've heard, the front end of this car is much improved as far as its bite, which the old car sort of lacked. And they're 3 wide here on the front straightaway. This is dicey.
Perfect example of how much the GT4 cars are no slouch in a straight line. That white BMW GT4 car, Zane Khan, going for another position. That's going to pick up over the Mustang for in-class battles. And Ken Hausiel continues to run second place in the Porsche Cup class. It's a separate class car, the blue and gold. Very lonely as far as class competition goes, but he is absolutely busy front and back through this section of the track.
Big gaggle of cars running up to turn 5 now. All up front, no major shifts or shuffles for the moment. Second place is still a fight in GT4. These 3 cars are not on top of each other, but they're only about a half a second apart. Lathrop ahead of Brock, but they're all 14 seconds behind GT4 leader Alex Cofford. So Hugh Jass has pretty good control of the GT4 field at the moment.
He does, and look again, every time we go to this car, he's making good choices in traffic. He had made that pass happen very easily for the Ferrari and then didn't have to go side by side through the final corner. And that just, it feels bad in the moment sometimes, but losing those couple of tenths is way better than losing seconds and seconds and seconds in that one off chance that someone doesn't do what you're expecting.
Well, the decisions he's made, he's actually, I mean, maybe he's losing some tenths based off his baseline, but he's still gaining ground. He gained half a second that time to Lathrop and Brock. So good decision making here, and it really helps his case that these two are battling so hard for P2.
There does. Wow, Michael Brocker on the outside of Thomas Lathrop so far, and actually all 4 Porsche Caymans, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, are essentially in the fight right now. That is Alex Bueller just behind in the Hot Wheels liveried car, and then Guido Waxman, a tight move up the inside in the Porsche Cup car, making his way back through. I think this car has been through the pit lane at least once, that 13. Probably easily get the Cayman down on the brake zone. Yes, it does so.
That 13 car running in the 992 category. Where is that team on the scoring? There it is, P15 in class. They started in 17th, so still technically up from the start of the race. Look at this chaos. Austin Cobb's 3 wide, and here comes Freddie La Rosa on the outside of turn 4, but going to get squeezed contact, and the 26 car gets knocked sideways.
26 car did a really nice job. Well, it's a shortcut through the dirt for one of the other Porsche Cup cars. That was wild, but in general, those cars, they really didn't need to have that contact. Austin Cobb tracked out as if he was clear. The 26 car had let him get there, but then stayed there. Big stuff for the second place battle in GT4.
You can't, you got to put these guys behind the baby gate. They keep getting into the muffins here as they come out of turn 11. They just can't look away.
About a dozen cars on the front straight, all 3 classes covered. Kyle, never heard that one.
that was you'll never hear that one again either, probably.
So this is kind of the top 10, maybe right at 10th in GT3, battling amongst the battle for second place in GT4. Big class overlap between these two as Zane Khan picks up another position overall in the GT3 class. That's the Ferrari getting a pass on the BMW from Vital Motorsports, Zach Pritchard. Things are going to settle down for at least a corner or 2 now amongst all these.
And Roman Bykov and Van Savicius, he was the car that was sort of in the middle of all this a moment ago. Let's go back a little further from this moment, and this is what he had to deal with. He was on the outside going to 4. He leaves the space here, but Austin just throttles up and just kind of runs him out of road there. But did a nice job not panicking, but then he kind of come across the road, and then you see the next car come on through. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that was definitely sketchier than it needed to be, but everyone did a good job to stay relatively calm. And I think that kind of thing is just inevitable at some points, but as long as everyone's aware that that kind of thing can happen, should come out the other end okay. What position are we looking at here in the Porsche Cup cars? These are just outside the top 5?
Yep.
Yes.
Gizzard, Lizard, Wizard Racing is Roman Bykov's team name, by the way. So, I'm a fan.
Valda showing the nose in the white and pink. Roman Bykov just running his line, not letting any doors open so far as they continue to battle in class for that 7th and 8th position. As you mentioned, a little bit of damage on the front of that 26 car.
Yeah, and I think, he already had some of it, but watch his turn into turn 10. He goes on offense here, turns in a hair too early, and this is one of the risks of Laguna Seca. Watch right here, this red anti-cut curb, bam. And over time, iRacing's damage model, while the suspension is pretty strong, over time you can actually incrementally damage suspension components, smacking those anti-cut curves.
During that replay, Valdez Vincevicius did find a way by, but then makes a little bit of a mistake in turn 3. Zach Pritchard's going to come back at him. Roman Bykov, gets the position back. in that kind of mint green and white Porsche Cup car. Maybe a little bit of a... For some reason, the 26 looks a bit slow in a straight line. Maybe it's just a poor run off of turn 4, but he lost some space down that straightaway.
Yeah, that damage is, you see the chunk taken out here. Look from the side here, Tom. You know, that damage you talked about. Look at, if we pause this here, the huge chunk out of the splitter on the nose of that car. It could be causing all sorts of issues here. It doesn't look like a lot, but it seems like it's affecting it a lot.
Yeah, and typically the straight line speed is affected more than in real life. Would in iRacing. So luckily for that car, I believe he should still have a fast repair to use during the first pit stop. That'll be coming up in the next, call it 7 minutes tops, where you can get a free repair on that car. But you want to use it sparingly. If you get a little bit of damage, maybe you don't fast repair the car. You live with it just in case you get caught up in something big later on. It's kind of a gamble.
You know, I have to be honest, you typically, leagues will avoid putting fast repairs on because people sort of use it as a get out of jail free card and they drive like chaos on the opening stages of the race. I'm blown away that even with fast repairs, people have made such great decisions. It's a safety net to be used as such, and I think people are respecting that, and that's what's made for such a good race so far.
Really big moment for Lathrop there in the Porsche Cayman, off 2 wheels just in front of this battle for, I think, 16th and 17th in class. Richard Sawicki with the pressure on the back of the number 35 Porsche working their way through. And then it's actually the overall leaders just behind them, 3 cars back. Diego Del Real is going to get a run on the first. That's the 3rd place car, the first Cayman he's come across. Is he going to go to the outside? Yes, does clear Lathrop down into the corkscrew this time. Puts a car between himself and that kind of beige, gray, and pink Lamborghini. That's the biggest gap that we've seen between the top 2 for 20 minutes now.
And this is Brian Taylor on pit lane, one of the first of the GT3s to come on down for what I imagine is a scheduled pit stop. And I don't know that there are any more. Holowojcik in the 98 has gone off. This is at the corkscrew.
And this is significantly more damage than we saw in that car earlier. Look at the right front, just all torn up. Hopefully not another car involved. She's all by herself. Down to the braking zone, very deep on the brakes, and is just going to miss the corner. I think he's going to Jackie Ding it off the wall, just a second there, and then park it.
Yeah.
Still, again, that's where the fast repair comes in. You know, that's my theory on it, is you should race like it's not there, but we don't want to take people's fun away either.
Right.
You want to be able to enjoy the race. You thought,
Ido Waxman! Woo! That was laid up the inside and somehow made that work. Caught the 31 off guard, I'm sure, Chris Murray, but that was a big lunge for Ido Waxman, but they're locked in this fierce battle for 14th in class there, Tom. Sorry.
No, you're all good. And that's Brandon Dreyer just behind. It's just the 2 of them right now on that section of real estate on the track. Ido Waxman in the Mad Aerodynamics Bro car ahead of the R&R Racing, which is how you sound like Australian. Oh, no.
R&R.
R&R Racing.
Yeah, but watch this again. As they approach turn 6, this is a late lunge, but maybe it's not as late from that angle as it looked from behind, but
I'm sure it felt late for both of those cars. But again, the Mustang communicating, basically, I'm going to glue myself to this side of the track. All that space is open. Ido took it.
Things have calmed down for a little bit, but back for 2nd place in GT4. Michael Brock passed Lathrop and crossover. They're not done yet.
Both of these cars team-driven, so we're going to see a driver change at some point. 4 stints in this race, which means probably 2 stints per driver. You can do it however you want. If you want one driver to do 1 lap, why not? But this is the battle continuing for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Alex Crawford continues to lead the way by a long way. He's just exited turn 4. These 3 Caymans are absolutely glued together. The 5th place Cayman is also in the background, the last green car there.
Yeah, 17 seconds nearly is the gap from Crawford back to Brock, and that gap has continued to climb. Going back to the 992s, Dana Basinski up to 9th place. This has been slow but steady progress for Basinski in that Team 86 car. And a little bit of dissuasion to try to keep Michael Montello at bay, but Montello's going to slice and dice here. Ooh, real tight at 5. And Montello, I think, is one of the only Chevrolet Corvettes in the field. I don't really see a lot of them, and I'm surprised by that. It was my understanding that this car was fairly solid, but it must not be a favorite, because Montello's the only one. He's performing well with it, though.
Yeah, we looked at the stats when we were setting this race up. We actually had to exclude one GT3 car, and we ended up excluding the Audi R8. It was statistically the lowest used car. The next fewest used is the NSX and then the Corvette. So I was with you. I thought it was a fairly popular car, but apparently not. I also got to shout out this livery as they continue to navigate this second place battle. Miscommunication there between the two of them. But they keep it clean around the outside for Montello. We do have a prize, 20% off the Spicy Cat Racing store for the best livery. I think the Montellos are always in the hunt for that one with that Miller Lite throwback livery on the Porsche or on the Corvette. But we got about 100 people watching this race live in the chat. If you have a favorite livery, shout it out. We're going to give a prize away for that, as well as a handful of other things. Thomas Lathrop continues to hold off for second in GT4 and gets a couple cars between himself. And, big tight move between the two at the turn 3. But now he has bought himself 3 cars between himself and third in class.
Yeah, nicely done there. And just behind Lathrop, there's the Flying Lizard Motorsports livery 25. That car being piloted 25 Porsche, right? So maybe I can't read these numbers at a distance. I'm trying to keep my eyes on what car is what, but they're sneaking through me, Tom.
It's just too many Porsches.
There are a lot of Porsches.
Porsche sponsorship.
Oh, is
all
it?
3 classes.
That must be a car that's a lap down.
Yeah, this is Frederick Gupil. He gave me the pronunciation, and I forgot it off the top of my head, but the 42 car was running about a lap down, 26th overall, 8th in class. And there's another perfect depiction of just how similar these cars are. The GT3 Porsche goes to the outside, the Flying Lizard car. Try to clear him on the brakes, but doesn't quite get there. It's going to be a drag race between these 2 cars, 2 different classes, but they're in perfect lockstep to the start-finish line.
Across the stripe here. Ooh, real tight. Oh, that's a GT3. That's why
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where the 25 car was on my scoring. But it turns out that it's the 5th place car, John Carissi the 4th. So apologies for that. I mean, these 2 cars have sort of merged closer and closer together in looks the last couple of generations, haven't they?
I think, yeah, since like 1990.
All right, Jeremy Clarkson.
Most of our lives.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. So maybe this is an easy way. Headlights or P-cups, no headlights is probably a GT3. I just noticed that myself.
There's some iRacing logic there, for sure.
Yeah, why not?
Here's Dana Basinski. Again, these two have sort of been going at it the last little bit. Zach Pritchard is slow, and it is because he is into pit lane.
Yeah, we're right in the window now. Again, a 45-minute stint roughly was when the fuel window opens for these drivers. The car might disappear for a second as they change drivers. A little bit easier to change drivers in the sim. You just click a button instead of having to do all the belts, hop in, hop out, get drug out of the car by your teammate. But expect these leaders to be pitting in the next lap or 2 as we look at the overall leader continuing to be Diego Del Real in the Spicy Cat Racing number 22. He's got a couple of car lengths over Austin Cobb and 1 car in between the 2 of them, actually. That Lamborghini running 2nd position, and then Freddie De La Rosa continuing in 3rd, but has dropped out of the camera frame just a couple of laps ago.
It's pretty dark out there with the cloud cover, but none of the conditions have really changed, so I'm not going to see a whole lot of shifting there.
That was awkward. One of the Porsche Cup cars trying to dive to the far right to let cars through, or maybe defend. Austin Cobb got a big block thrown on him there. It was completely fair. Covered the inside. That was, pretty wide. One of the Porsche Cup cars. Things are getting really spicy for Austin Cobb as he comes towards the pit entry.
Couldn't find him on the scoring. There's so many cars. They're all mixed up now. But there's Cobb. Let's go back and look at that again because I was hacking away at the camera's buttons. But coming up the hill.
Yeah, this is the 4th place Porsche Cup car in the middle right there. The white and pink. That's Zach Severe. Being really, really defensive on Cobb, but does open the door finally when Cobb pushes the issue. I think that was very fair between the 2 of them, but pretty intense for a moment. Certainly. Cobb has lost now, call that maybe 3 or 4 seconds that lap.
Basinski's gotten by Goupil in the 42, but not by much. It's not driving away from him by any stretch. Looks like Michael Montello is going to hit the pit lane, so he'll be one of the first of the front runners to come in for a fresh tank of fuel.
2nd place driver from GT4 also sitting in the back of the shot there as they're getting their first pit stop done. That was the Apex This Sim Lizards. Michael Brock appears to be staying in the car, and he was battling with this driver, Thomas Lathrop, who really cuts that pit entry. I don't know if you can do that. Hopefully he can.
I don't actually know. I've never experienced that before. I don't know if I've run a race with a pit stop here before.
Uh-oh. Oh, he missed his pit lane. Missed his pit lane.
Oh, trouble.
Oh, no. Terrible choices. Throwing it in reverse on the pit lane will never go well. And now big damage to that car. Picked up a GT3 car coming through and almost collected DJ Alessandrini. I think DJ Alessandrini's contact box had gone transparent, essentially, right before that contact. But DJ trying to look around, figure out what the heck was that.
Yeah, going back again as he rolls into the pit lane here. And again, there is a certain amount of, car invincibility, when you're within a certain range of your pit box, but not always.
Look at this, a GT4 car in reverse coming right at him. Just barely misses. Actually got some contact.
That was?
Yeah, he's probably on the mic going, what the hell was that?
Yeah. So we'll see, again, if he's going to elect to choose the fast repair there, or I would think someone like DJ, who's generally pretty good at avoiding risk, would probably think it worth it to take the fast repair, but he's out of the box now. I don't see any damage.
Quick pit stop. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to check maybe with somebody, see if DJ actually took tires. Remember, we talked at the top of the show about how the fueling and the tires do not happen at the same time in these cars, which means taking tires adds an additional 20 plus seconds to your pit stop. This was your GT4 leader, Alex Cofford, continuing to lead the race. I believe in that Mustang, has not done his pit stop yet. He's going to rejoin just in front of your first stint P-Cup leader, DJ Alessandrini.
Oh, trouble behind. And that was, again, couldn't quite get a look. It's tricky when you're in the middle of a pit cycle and there's cars flying around on the timing, but.
Yeah, for sure. And something we can talk about now that the pit stops are happening with tire changes. Don't forget, they have no tire warmers and they're a nightmare when they're cold. We saw a little bit of that in qualifying. But that spin from the Mercedes is not a huge surprise. I spin on my outlap in the GT4 cars half the time. So it's a really, really high risk, especially if you've done a driver change and tires. You're putting a cold driver on cold tires. It's almost exaggerated. I don't want to undersell that, but it's really a big challenge in these GT4 cars.
Yeah, the spectacle of Laguna Seca. We talked about turn 6 early on, these low slung GT cars. Have a look at this. In turn 6, you kind of get to the compression. Watch under the car, those sparks. I got a chance to walk out there this year, there for Grid Life, and just see how ground down the track is from the repeated rub block abuse on the cars in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that whole section is just torn to pieces, especially with IndyCar racing here, GT cars racing here, all that. I don't think we haven't seen our GT3 class leaders in yet. They're coming up towards the corkscrew. There's Del Real, Diego, and a couple of cars back. Austin Cobb has dropped off of the lead just a little bit. This is, again, the biggest gap we've seen. Real has done a really good job of managing this race.
So Justin Sang here in the Scuderia Chicken House West car is up to second place. He's actually gotten by Austin Cobb in this Ferrari, and I didn't catch how that exchange had happened, but that's because Cobb had been to pit lane, the other two had not. And the leader is in, and we'll see if Justin Sang does the same as well.
Yeah, interesting. So Austin Cobb actually pit 2 laps ago. We didn't catch that, but Del Real going a whole 2 laps further, I think, than Cobb did in the Porsche.
Yeah, you can see the stints
kind of
left-hand side, Tom. So 39 for Diego Del Real if you include the in-lap, and 38 for Scuderia Chicken House. And again, that extra two laps is going to matter later in this race to stretch, maybe take a little less fuel. That could be a big story and topic when we get to that last stop.
It sure can, and it kind of shoots our theory of Cobb saving fuel in the foot as well. So
yeah.
That was just basically a flat-out stint, I have to imagine. This car, the 32, the Scuderia Chicken House West car, putting in a good stint to be in the top on the lead lap before the pit stops. You see where that car falls. That actually also, that whole pit stop cycle, because of how many times the car's seen pit lane, we have Zane Khan all the way up into 4th position overall. El lap ago. He now just finally does his first pit. Oh. What happened there?
Let's have another look.
I think that was the Porsche Cup car of Kevin Zhu, maybe running a little bit wide off track. No, actually it was the Mercedes. Yeah. Excuse me, of Freddie De La Rosa.
Just a little bobble there, and you're kind of using the compression to rotate the car, and if you kind of get out of that, you get a little tank slapper, kind of just walk you across the road. So
Yep, that was actually Jared Garcia on his first lap, I think, or second lap in the car after the pit stop. Driver change for that number 45 car. Should also mention the 45 car picked up a penalty, I assume, because of the contact that that ended that GT4 car's campaign for second from our live stewards. So that car is going to drop out of the top 3, but is still in the lead lap battle.
So starting to kind of reshift and reshuffle here. Update on the lead for the moment. We still are awaiting Diego Del Real to hit pit lane here, to finish his first lap back on the racetrack. So it looks like everybody has come in GT3 with just a couple exceptions down the field. See on the stint there, Toffbaum Racing, that was Matt Waldbaum, and he had to come in earlier for some repairs, so he's got a few more laps of fuel should he want. But going back to that incident with Thomas Lathrop there, you kind of note how everyone's sort of pitting over the course of 5 or 6 laps. I think it's sort of important that the strategies get a little bit different because you don't really want all 55 cars needing to hit pit lane at the same time. So if you kind of get a little off strategy, provided it's in a way that you think is advantageous, it's kind of nice to come down pit lane when you're the only ones or when it's just a little less busy.
Yeah, totally agree, especially with the high-speed braking zone for pit in. But I mean, in general, rule of thumb, you don't reverse on pit lane anytime ever, no matter what. So yes. that was just a poor choice in the heat of the moment. This is that Jared Garcia car that runs currently 6th in class. But back at the front of GT3, I think this is really interesting. We saw the 2 cars of Del Real and Cobb run basically nose to tail the entire first stint, but the cycle of pit stops has given Diego Del Real just this huge lead all of a sudden, and huge is not a chasm, but it's going to feel like it to Austin Cobb as he's now half a straightaway behind. And these 2 are pretty much boogered off from the rest of the field. They're now 3rd place is the Montello racing car, the Corvette, in 3rd.
Yeah, as far as the GT4 field is concerned, the huge-ass car, Alex Cofford, has he even come in yet? He just did. Oh, no, he has not. Zero pit stops. He's 38 laps into his stint. And Josh Case is 37 laps in. Everyone else has been down pit lane.
Give you an idea, because he has not pit, Alex Cofford is coming up to lap 4th place in his own class.
Wow.
Just one or 2 cars ahead of him now. That's the Mustang from Case and Sons. Josh Case driving that car, a couple corners just up the road.
And that's the car I just mentioned has also yet to pit. So these Mustangs are going quite a long ways. Shift back to Jared Garcia, his Case chasing down Christopher Rosario, the Scuderia Chicken House West Ferrari.
It's hard to change from Italian to such an English word. Scuderia Chicken House. Yeah. Real tongue twister there, guys.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, keeping us on our toes.
Oh, boy.
Pulling up the inside, I think Franz Hansen in the 44 doing this race solo in the Porsche Cayman. He's been so fast in a lot of the leagues we've seen, puts in so much work in the simulator to be, on his game all the time. That was really, really tight stuff. Jared Garcia looks like he bailed at the last second, thought better of it. It's so tempting right here. Am I going to get it? No, think better of it. Great choice. Doesn't feel great in the moment, but that's the kind of stuff that will ultimately pay off in this race.
Yeah, it definitely cost him a lot of time, but what costs you more time is waiting for the pickup, the tow truck at the gravel. So I think he'll live to fight another day. A couple of the cars peeling off in the background. As far as the 992 category, so going back to DJ's pit stop, spent 52 seconds on pit lane compared to Ken Houseal's 32 seconds, and now the difference between them is only 4.9. So maybe he took some time there, Tom, to repair the car without the fast repair potentially?
No, you know what? That's the tires. DJ Alessandrini did take the tires, and it looks like Ken Houseal did not. So they're actually very close together on track. Houseal is just there coming into the final corner, but that means that Ken is double stinting these tires. That's going to be maybe a tough order come 40 minutes from now, as we just hit 1 hour into this race in a few minutes' time.
Do you feel like in the 992 that you'd be better off taking tires every time, or do you think DJ will skip them next time and Ken will take them?
That's a great question. I think that's a big question mark for everybody coming into this race, because the car is so new and just getting laps is the high priority. DJ found out that the tires don't change at the same time, I think this morning. That's how late in the game they were still doing some research. So I have to imagine it's worth taking the tires in the long run, but 22 seconds is a really, really long time. So I could see taking the gamble either way. Obviously, Ken Hausil feeling pretty good about the tires on that car, at least to go another stint on them.
So a little off strategy, perhaps. Well, not anymore, though. Zane Khan started 4th in this race, had to go down pit lane, take a fast repair, then came back out on the racetrack, got a penalty, and here he is now 7th in class. Are enough people looking at the pace of this car and going, you know, there's still 2 hours left in this race as we approach the 1 hour mark. Is this the car to beat?
It would be impressive. It would be beyond impressive, really, to end up the car to beat. You have Diego Del Real and Austin Cobb running such flawless races. But if I was basically anybody short of those two, I'd be a little bit concerned. And he's going to be a bit of a sleeper. This is a driver that we haven't seen in our series before. The car doesn't even have a livery on it. It's a pretty understated type deal going on with the 52 car. So, you know, if I'm Montello Racing, if I'm Scuderia Chicken House, Reed Gibson up the road just a little bit, he might come as a surprise spoiler to a couple of their podium shots.
Charging forward, last lap was half a second quicker than the race leader's lap, and that's in traffic. So Zane Khan looking really mighty quick. There is a ton of gravel leaving turn 6. I can't quite get it on the shot there because it's sort of in the middle of the straightaway, but it is really messy on the run up to the corkscrew.
Khan trying to get a nose underneath Ido Waxman, but Waxman not making it easy at all.
Oh,
in the
boy.
Mad Arrow Porsche is going to go for a bit of a ride. Great save, Waxman, gather it up, but that's going to put him right on the apex for all these cars coming at him. He's still tank slapping. That's that tire flash heating we mentioned.
Yeah, a couple of GT3s. There's really a mix of everybody back there, but that was a tense moment. That's what I was talking about earlier. If you get a wheel off track, you know, you just unwind the wheel a little too soon. Drop that wheel, all the grip goes away, and you're just kind of fighting the slide until you get it wound back up. This is, oh man, see the Mercedes AMG there. Jared Garcia just kind of hunting around using all the road on corner entry into the Andretti hairpin. This is sort of paved out here. It's dusty pavement, but you can find a little extra road.
I wonder if that was a bit of a surprise break for Garcia in the Mercedes. He got on the brakes and dove driver's right just at the turn, or really at the brake point for the Andretti hairpin. I think he probably could have taken the move on Ido Waxman there, but maybe the early brake point of that Porsche Cup car surprised him a bit. This driver, Garcia, really, really quick in some of, particularly one league that I know he runs in with a group of friends, but finding his footing here in the multi-class race, sitting 8th now, and I think we're going to see Emil Tab finish this race out in this car, or perhaps Luke McGrew after, I think it's going to be Luke McGrew, excuse me, after Freddie De La Rosa's opening stint.
Second place in GT4. It's been a hot spot today. Richard McDonald and Alex Bueller. These are these two Porsche Caymans fighting for second place, a good ways behind Alex Comfort, though.
And that Rising Edge car with Lathrop would be right in this battle, other than a penalty for those pit lane antics that we saw a couple minutes ago. I think that's completely merited, but unfortunate because it takes him out of this battle. So it's kind of fizzled to 2. Big contact. Is that Zane Khan with more issues?
He's got a penalty. I don't know if he was involved in an incident on the front straight. We're going to take a look at it. But 1 hour in, and it looks like another potential penalty. And the issue ahead wasn't related. Oh, that was a big hit. What car was that?
Hit. 172 just tagged his left rear. So the 172 car, the apex this car of Jesse Mayer, was collected. It looks like he made a move to the outside. We'll take a look back.
Where was the 172 on scoring? I don't even know where to grab him. What position is that car in?
Sitting 50th in the race right now.
Oh, there we go. That's why.
So they were pretty well down. The ones. Oh, it's.
Let's see.
Maybe the 772?
No. Well, that's what it is. Yeah, it's the At Dawn Racing car.
There we go.
Yeah. Again, so this was just up on the front straightaway just now. This is a pretty big hit, probably one of the more severe incidents we've seen so far.
So taking a look to the outside, the GT4 car gets kind of stuck in the middle, and that's where the space on this straightaway just evaporates as cars turn left, turns himself across the nose of the GT4 car. And as wide as this track may be, realistically, it kind of turns into 1, maybe 2 lanes as we come up over that blind brow just past start finish. Taking a look at it from onboard Richard Sawicki, he takes the left side, the preferred side for the faster cars. Just behind him, we're going to see the Ferrari turn himself across. So Wiki really got away with one, and unfortunately, the other Ferrari further back is going to be the collateral damage.
Yeah, this is just not going the way that Zane Khan wanted. Well, whatever penalty he had is, well, he is out of the pits now. But you know what? That was probably a meatball flag, is what we saw there, Tom. I thought he had potentially some other issue come on through race control, but when he got tagged there, it knocked his headlights out, and that will trigger a meatball. So. Still 8th is his pace. Again, he just needs to kind of shake off the bad luck and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, it really breaks my heart as the organizer of this race to see someone just have kind of consistent issues. That's, they're being aggressive. They're in those positions because they put themselves there, but maybe not always at fault for them. And that particular driver seems to be collecting all of those situations in this race. DJ Alessandrini continuing to lead the way in the Porsche Cup category by a very, very healthy margin. In fact, he's currently the only P Cup on the lead lap, with the rest of the GT3 cars sitting 10th overall.
He's so expressive, and look at his eyes as he goes back and forth. I mean, he looks like he's like in one of those Air Force like G suits, go rolling through in a fighter jet, just like focusing on the next thing.
Surprised he's talking to somebody. There are a group of them and using the Discord chat to chat. They're not talking in the race for everyone to hear, but you know what that gives? What that tells me more than anything, you see the amount of movement in his eyes and his head, looking around at maybe the heads-up display on his screen. That's just a sign of a lot of bandwidth and a lot of comfort. I know I don't turn my head that much. I don't look around that much. I am locked in, and I have to be paying attention to what the car is doing. And that's the difference in a driver like me who can hold my own in iRacing, and a driver like DJ who sets the target for everyone.
I'm just fascinated. I watch a lot of drivers on this kind of broadcast here where I've got their faces on, and his mouth is moving around so much, which is interesting. I mean, not even just when he's talking, it's just he's making expressions and faces. And I wonder, and this would be something interesting to talk about, when you're in your focus mode, if there's subconscious things that you're doing that you have tied to a particular focus level, or there's something that you do that there's like muscle groups that are tied together. I don't know. It's just interesting to watch. I haven't noticed this before. So, but anyway,
things got extra busy there for a moment. A couple of GT4 cars working their way, either letting people by. There's the 98 Liberty Bell League Porsche from GT4 with an issue off driver's left, exiting the corkscrew. And some of the issues that we're seeing develop now is, I think, partially from driver changes. Looking at Melanie Kwong trying to find her way back on the track, but maybe half the cars or more have new drivers in them after that pit stop. As well practiced as you might be, you can only get up to speed so quickly with how chaotic things are on this track.
Yes, this is going off into the corkscrew here and slowing it down, rolling it down, coming down the crest here, and then a little contact from behind, actually, mid-corner from one of the Ferraris, I think. That could have stalled the car as well, though Melanie has got it rolling now. Oh boy, Jared Garcia, Zane Khan, and this is a lot of traffic here. A couple Porsche 992s. There's the 26 again. A little squeeze there and off the road slightly for Vincevicius.
Oh, big lunge from Garcia up the inside of, I think, Kevin Zhu, still in the Castrol Porsche there. Thinks better of it.
Oh, contact.
They're going to get a little touch. That's really awkward at the exit of the corkscrew. Unfortunate for Jared Garcia, going to go around. We take another look at how that happened as the number 26 Porsche, the white and pink, had let these guys through. And on the brakes, he's just going to get a really good run around the outside. Barely keeps it on the track. Garcia will have very good information that he's there. Closes the door down to the apex, and just awkward.
That's tough because he would think that when he gets the spotter clear call from getting by Zhu, he's good. But then all of a sudden, that car that is now in his blind spot fills up that apex, and at that point, there's no way that Jared Garcia would have known that that car was going to be there. So that's a tough scenario, and it's also had them pick up a penalty of some kind, whether it's a meatball or otherwise. Black flag for the number 45 Big Little Jared Racing car.
Yeah, that was from quite a while ago with car number 172 on lap 20, actually. So
oh, wow, okay.
That may not be a particularly fresh penalty. Live admin doing the best to keep up with all the action. And assign penalties appropriately. That's all this action for the 45 car is actually going to put them nearly a lap down. Diego Del Real just ahead, and Austin Cobb just behind. There's the 136. Actually, we need to get a little update on GT3 because currently Austin Cobb is shown in the leader. Diego Del Real has dropped to second position,
and it was just last lap. Yeah,
just last lap.
Sorry, Tommy, but this was turn 10, and was there right here? Oh, there might have been some net code there potentially. I don't know that they actually made contact.
Yep, agreed with that. That's really unfortunate. 45 car involved again. Real trying to go around the outside. And I totally agree, just an internet problem there. We did see Del Real flashing a little bit in the early stages of this race with some internet connectivity issues. I have to wonder if maybe it's a weaker signal on the end of the number 22 that caused that net code. It would be unfair to assign that sort of blame, but... Yeah,
it's tough because unless it's like a consistent thing with your internet provider, it's pretty unpredictable and based on the traffic of your neighbors a lot of the time, and it's tough to assign fault necessarily, but again, it's just tough math, and that's put Austin Cobb in the lead, and he's now 7.8 ahead of Diego Del Real, and Anthony Montello has picked up third place now in this Chevrolet Corvette.
I think that's a pretty big gift for Austin Cobb because after the pit stop cycle, it was looking like he was on the back foot quite a bit. He was down, a handful of seconds to Del Real, and now the tables have turned. Del Real, after running a pretty flawless start to this race, relatively harmless incident has cost him now an 8-second deficit to the leader. Montello running with the Scuderia Chicken House. This is sounds like the primary car. This is for position between these two. The Corvette leads in third place overall. Behind him just now, the Ferrari.
And Reed Gibson, as you mentioned. And this team started P6. They've kind of flown under the radar, so to speak. Well, maybe they don't fly. Chickens are flightless birds, but... But there he is, P4, and chasing down this Corvette. Good battle here.
Coming up on, I think that's a GT4 Cayman, as they're just going to clear him through the exit of this. Perfect timing for both of these drivers. That was one of our contenders. Michael Brock maybe in the GT4 car. They must have also gone through some woes because they now sit way down in class, almost last place in class after battling for second for a while, right?
Yeah, then the other car I just noted is Ken House-Seal had a very slow lap last time around him. And this was the issue here for down the corkscrew. So a lot of little incidents kind of stacking up in the second stint of the race. And this was all on his own. That's a rare mistake there by House-Seal.
Very rare, and I will say, as great as the updates might be, hang on for a second, this is a change for position third in class. The Ferrari Scuderia Chicken House is going to go down the inside of the front straight, and it's a braking duel between the Corvette and the Ferrari into turn one. Montello is going to tuck in and accept the loss for the battle and try to resettle in to win the war, but 2 hours nearly to go, 1 hour and 48 minutes to be exact. And this is, again, as you mentioned, a sleeper, maybe also as a product of some of the misfortunes of others. Schadenfreude there has put the Scuderia Chicken House car up into the bronze medal position.
So Montello working by some traffic here and through some traffic here, and let's see. Austin Cobb, his lead is coming down a little bit, isn't it? Diego Del Real's picking the pace back up now after that little spin a couple laps ago. About 1 hour 45 to go.
Del Real has taken over 2.5 seconds out of the lead that Austin Cobb had just 2 laps ago. It was 8 some, now it's 5.5 last time across the line. So the number 22 has really lit the wick. And I have to imagine a driver like that, at some point you have to start offsetting the loss with some more risks. Flashing the lights for our third place driver in GT4, barely sees him coming. That's tight stuff. The Mustang also lets him through.
And through turn 6 and trying to charge forward. And Toff Bomb Racing, by the way, in the 992 category. Now Ryan Christoph climbing behind the wheel. They're kind of in the box. It's what it seems like sort of an awkward time in the stint. No? Maybe. Well, 36 laps. Yeah, they were a little off the sequence of everybody else.
Yeah, showing there's quite a bit of damage on the front of that car. Maybe they just wanted to do a fast repair. I also know Matt has a newborn at home. Maybe he needed to get out of the car in an emergency or something. Not sure. but anything can happen in the sim with that kind of thing. Big battle between a handful of Porsche Cup cars. That's Tyler Porter in the number 18, facilitating a nice pass for the car that currently sits, I believe, in third. That's the white and pink car. Yes, it is. Zach Severe sits third in class, goes for a pass up the inside of a couple of the GT4 cars battling.
Dust everywhere.
This is really getting crazy. I think that pit stop cycle with some fresh drivers and some fatigue settling in for maybe some of the drivers that are driving this race by themselves have really changed the shape of this race from fairly calm to proper chaos for the last couple minutes.
Ooh, big curb jump there for Zach Severe, clawing his way forward. And see the Ferrari in the background. Chris Rosario kind of slicing and dicing. He was the Ferrari really aggressive on the binders a moment ago. And just trying to find, there's another gaggle of cars that's all kind of mixed class in just behind this group as well on the front straight.
Wow, this is maybe what we're seeing with the first time GT3 and Porsche Cup cars are overlapping as well. With how similar they are, it seems like they're creating, I don't want to call it a traffic jam properly, but it really is a big saturation of cars at certain points of the track. That is Zane Khan getting a run through on Kevin Zhu. Oh, tries to go around the outside because of the traffic jam from the GT4 car. All three of these cars are going to sweep around the outside of the Mustang down to the braking zone. The Porsche Cup car in the inside is going to defend, but make it easy for both GT3 cars to get through. I think that might be Piero Pucci just trying to disappear to the left side of the track.
Yeah. The Team 86 car, you're right about that. Just kind of slice and dice. Piero and Dana Basinski working together in the Team 86 car. Top 10 right now in this group. There's battles all over this racetrack, but Klaus Wood, Zane Khan, I'm still impressed. Again, I know we talked about it a couple of times, but this would have been a bad day for a lot of drivers to have as many incidences he's gotten tangled up in, but he's right behind Wood and looking aggressive here into turn 11.
Oh, we're just seeing right now from race control a drive-through penalty for the number 33. That's third place in GT3. Scuderia Chicken House with incident responsibility. Car number 6 in turn 8, lap 39. I don't know exactly what that was, but it sounds like some contact caused. Essentially, the rule that we've set in place is if your incident ruins someone else's race, takes them out of the hunt, loses them multiple seconds, then you get a drive-through penalty. If you've ruined someone else's race, for lack of a better term, we're going to ruin yours, right? So this car was looking great for a moment, but that drive-through penalty is going to knock them down at least 30 seconds it takes to drive through the pit lane.
That's brutal. And we're only about 15 minutes away from the halfway point of this race as well. So you're going to kind of reevaluate where you are in your strategy and kind of see what your target teams are and how your strategy is kind of stacking up to compare to theirs. But penalties at this stage of the race, you could probably afford one early on, but as you get later in the race, things get a lot harder.
Oh, 3 wide. This is Klaus Wood with big pressure from Zane Khan. Makes the pass actually pretty easy for all things considered. Contact behind, though, for 2 of the Porsche Cup cars.
And didn't exactly get which one that was. There's another car off. Hold on. I got to get caught up here. First this, because we're cutting back live. This is turn 6. And this was, I think, all on Marco Gadej's own here, potentially. Big curb slam there. And then up the road, it was the 42 of Tyler Smith getting into the 5 of Nick Bauer. And they got all pointed back the right direction, Tom, but pretty wild moment there.
Yeah, and Tyler Smith was really deep on the brakes. I don't think he really would have made the corkscrew by himself had the other car not been there, but unfortunately the other car sitting at the apex just gets kind of a slam from the back end. Meanwhile, as we catch our breaths, Austin Cobb has continued to lead this race, but the lead has dwindled even further, now down to 3.5 seconds. Diego Del Real has now cut that in more than half what it was before his first incident.
And the 6-7 car, 18 laps into a run into the box here in GT3. Thought maybe driver change. Kelly Greenhoe stays behind the wheel. Cars everywhere in the corkscrew. Chris Rosario a little slow offline.
And I think that BMW pit, because of a collateral contact from the incident in the corkscrew that we saw just prior to that pit in, I think that was an unscheduled stop for the 6-7 Motorsports car. Kelly Greenhoe staying in, probably getting a repair. Car went up for tires as well, so he might have just taken the advantage to fully fuel and change tires. I think the best thing for the race right now for everybody would just be a couple deep breaths and remember we are still not even halfway through this race. Things have definitely hit 11 on the heat chart, and we want to dial it back down to that 7 or 8 where it was at the beginning.
And Greenhoe right out of the pits and right around at the exit of the corner.
So probably just a bit of cold tires catching him out. It's so hard to go from hot tires to cold tires. I can't even tell you how annoying it can be. It goes back for an over-under on one of the Mustangs. We've seen this car around a couple times, the number 99. Haven't mentioned him quite yet in class, but they're running a relatively lonely 7 laps down. HK Motorsports is Mark Kilgore, teamed up from Street GT and Grid Life with Nick Hendricks for this race.
Yep. I'm at a little mid-race. My girlfriend's on the way down here, Tom. She just got rear-ended, so I was a little distracted there for a second. She's good.
Is she in this race?
I think one of the drivers might be on the road. They came off the paddock and drove up to Gurnee, Illinois, I suppose. But she's all right, and the car should be drivable. But she's got an old Prius, and she loves that thing. So. Anyway, carrying on. Sorry, so get my head back in the game here.
All good. Tyler, apologies from Blizzard Brains podcast. That was a good look right now at the 5th place car in Porsche Cup, Chris Levitz in the on the ledge racing orange team car. That car sits 5th in Porsche Cup. So now we're looking at that drive-through penalty for the Scuderia Chicken House.
Yes, Reed Gibson will rejoin the racetrack here. 1 hour, 40 minutes to go. Piero Hoot. Oh, there's cars everywhere in turn 1. It feels like that's the 5 car again. The Nick Bauer-driven Porsche 992, and how did he find his way off course? And this is probably all on his own. Just stepped out low speed.
Yeah. This was definitely an issue I was struggling with this car. As big as the updates might be, and as much as people are liking it, it's still easy to lose the back end of that thing.
Well, he needs Robert, I think.
Robert, help! Yeah. And rejoined just in front, or just behind, excuse me, of Diego Del Real, who's continuing his charge back to the back bumper of Austin Cobb. The gap is now only 2.4 seconds. Del Real has been absolutely on a tear through traffic and has been taking tenths and up to a second out of Austin Cobb every single lap. Gets another nice, easy pass there. Cobb ahead in traffic. Kind of boiled down to a top 2 race for these two after woes for everybody else who's been in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, just a lot of penalties and incidents and spins and slides, and it's put these two really a step ahead. Austin Cobb has been a little slower in traffic ahead. It seems like whoever is P2 is quicker.
Just caught an incident in the background for Jeff Harris. The Green Villain Motorsports car went for a slide and caught a little bit of the wall on the exit of turn 9. Another self-spin, the back of these Porsches. I don't think the conditions are changing much. This is probably just driver changes and fatigue settling in as we approach halfway.
Yeah, pretty much equivalent air and track temp to what we've seen. Again, we've also got track debris. The track's going to rubber in, marbles, things like that. Can also just put you that much closer to the edge. Got driver changes, drivers that have just climbed in the car without as much experience on the day, so just enough to kind of throw things loose. On GT4, by the way, I know we haven't really focused a lot on them as individuals. Brian Lemke in the 6-7 car is climbing behind the wheel, though. In GT4, still Huge Ass leading, with Giovanni Romano leading by 9 seconds over Alexander Bueller. Then it's Richard McDonald, Franz Hansen, Benson Tai, we haven't talked about yet today, and Alex LaRose in the Spud Shift Porsche. Andrew Jimenez in the Beanie Beamer Boys, number 11. But these guys haven't been quite as on top of each other as the rest of the class has been. Just want to make sure we're keeping our eyes on them at times as well.
Oh, I just realized that livery might just be beans. Is that just baked beans?
It's baked beans. I like baked beans, Tom. I'm a beans guy.
I don't know if they go well with BMWs, but hey, Beanie Beamer, Beanie Beamer Boys.
Here's Christopher Rosario challenging Tyler Sciocca in the Burning Bell Motorsports Mustang, driving down the corkscrew here.
These drivers are the first cars off the lead lap in GT3, so the top 5 all still on the lead lap. These two have just dropped off it. We're coming up on the next pit window opening just that quickly as this stint has flown by with all the chaos.
Yeah, 24 laps for the Lamborghini out front on this stint, 22 for the Spicy Cat Racing car running in second, and just 1.9 seconds between those two race leaders at the moment, and that gap is closing quickly, although Austin's put a couple of cars between himself and Diego.
Be interesting to see what Diego does with the next car in front of him. That's the Scuderia Chicken House car that was running third before it got a penalty. So the pace is pretty strong in that Ferrari, and it's the only car sitting between Diego and Cobb. Porsche's just with such a unique entry noise, no matter if it's a Cayman, a 911, or a Cup car. They're kind of the only car that does that downshift noise that we're also used to from older cars. Everything else is very quiet on entries. The Porsche's just screaming as they bleed off RPMs down to the apex. Here's a look at the Montello racing car that runs third in class. This is Anthony Montello behind the wheel, also sharing the car with Michael Montello, who started the race. So this is that correct? No, Michael Montello's been in since, yes, the start. And then Anthony Montello has worked
I think Anthony's
most
been
of the way
car.
to this stint.
No?
Yeah. Michael started, Anthony was in
okay.
the pit stop, so it looks like they're going back and forth.
Got it. Hour 35 to go, closing on the halfway point. And just, to your note, they are Montello is a long ways behind the leaders. Zane Khan quickly catching Montello, but then has to gain another 48 seconds to catch the rest of the leaders. There's a little bit of a scraggle down into turn 2 here. And is that Ken House-Seal that's going to get a little push and shove? Yes.
Yeah, that's the Scuderia Chicken House West car with Christopher Rosario at the wheel, really trying to show the nose on House-Seal. And then it's probably going to be another couple of corners before he gets another opportunity to make a pass at this second place Porsche Cup car.
Ken right on the rear tailpipes of that Mustang ahead of him as well. Less than 7/10 between the two GT3 leaders. We'll take you there in a moment. Oh, Ken's off the road. He's off the road big time out of turn 6. He'll keep it straight and pull it back on course.
Scary moments. Does a nice job to not lie back onto the course either. Frustrating stuff as Ken is basically the best of the rest in the Porsche Cup cars. He's full lap down though from Alessandrini after he's had his own woes with that quick self-spin and just kind of running in the worst of the traffic. Cobb really pushing it now as he feels the pressure from Diego Del Real.
Diego has led 48 laps, and compare that number with Austin Cobb's 14. Austin always seemed like he was keeping Diego in his crosshairs, but once Austin got the lead, the gap between them has come way down. Little traffic that they'll have to navigate out of 5 caused Diego to have to shallow up his entry, but he's past the traffic and can now focus ahead on Cobb.
They're on a pretty low saturation part of the track. Cobb getting really, really aggressive up the left side, wants the line for the corkscrew. The Cayman's going to slot in. Diego Del Real's going to get held up just a little bit, shows the nose around the outside, uses the compression to make it work. Drops another 7 stories down through Rainy Curve into turn 10, but all of that was a bit awkward. Bought Austin Cobb maybe a couple of tenths, but this Porsche has so much pace right now. It's flying.
And once we get to that last hour, I think once we get, we start counting down 59 minutes, 58 minutes, and so on, I think it's going to go by really, really fast. 3 hours seems like a lot. 1 hour does not. It's just there's something that shifts in your mindset once you get within that last pit stop window. Lead battle happening. A couple others around the racetrack. Keep our eyes on Chris Rosario in Scuderia Chicken House West. And Burning Bell Motorsports way off the track at turn 10.
Yeah, huge curb grab for the number 30 there at the apex. Maybe lost his sight line because of how close he was to the Ferrari and just skips into the dirt. Really easy to do. Look at the Mustang, just dives in, clips it, absolutely bicycling into the dirt from that one. And that car was in battle for position with the Ferrari. He's going to lose quite a bit of time.
And here's your lead battle between Cobb and Real. Into turn 6, working lap 64, and about halfway.
Next car in their sights is the second place car in GT4. That's the Hot Wheels car of Alex Bueller, who I believe is Iron Manning this race as well. He's going to open the door nicely and easily to let both of those top two cars in GT3 go by, but now this is going to get awkward. Both dive underneath the Mercedes into turn 10. And are they going to be patient or not? This is a really tough spot for a GT4 car to hold them up. You just got to be patient and go for the pass on exit. Del Real trying to get a good run. He's absolutely glued to the tailpipes of the Lamborghini. Going to get a nice draft, maybe even a bump draft up the front straightaway. Slices right. He's going to try to go the long way around.
Side by side into the braking zone for turn 1. All the while, Zane Khan back up into third place. A ways back. Diego kind of shut off at the exit of the Andretti hairpin. Swings left. Cobb slightly defensive on the run up to turn 3. But I think Diego's going to set him up nicely. Traffic to contend with now a GT4 car. Oh, squeeze.
Oh, really awkward spot. No one did anything wrong there, but that compression at the apex of turn 4 is going to open the opportunity for Del Real. He's going to put the nose in. Austin Cobb embraces the race, but he might lose the position because of it. They're going to drag race up to turn 6. Del Real will undoubtedly have the advantage, and Cobb backs out.
Backs out, but could he get back on throttle a little sooner or race him up to the corkscrew? I don't think he got quite enough of a run to do that just yet. So taking note, 1 hour, 30 minutes to go. We've got 90 minutes left. The gap between Austin Cobb and Diego Del Real is 0.3 of a second. The gap to Zane Khan from Cobb is 50 seconds. And Khan last time by was half a second quicker than the leaders. So that means that there's about 60 laps to go. I don't know that there's enough time left to just run them down on pure pace here, Tom, but get me a good pit stop for that 52 car. It could be a 3-car race by the end.
It's still a performance either way, for sure. Again, I'll be shocked if he actually gets there, but that car does have a ton of pace, talking the Khan coaching car. Let's another look at the battle a little further back in the Porsche Cup class. Piero Pucci putting the pressure on Tyler Porter, maybe in the Finger Lakes. I forget, but that's it's off the transit system.
Yeah, the New York State DOT.
Yes, there you go.
and
nice.
New York DOT.
This is for position in class. These cars sit 25th and 26th overall, battling for a top 10 in the category. It's going to put one of the GT3 cars between the two of them. And the Porsche just in front is Chris Levitz, who is a couple of laps up on these two.
Yeah, the next car they're chasing is the variant SimSports Valdes Van Savicius. That's 8th place. He's a little ways up the road.
That Pucci off, exiting turn 3. I think he went for a little bit of a ride. And it looks like Zach Rubin also in the same set of corners. Ooh, really awkward. One of the Scuderia Chicken House Ferraris come through. I'm not sure if that was contact or not.
Richard Sawicki is off at, this is I think turn 10, the corner exit. This is kind of a weird spot. Wonder if he, curb again, same story as we saw with the Mustang.
That curb is just the nemesis of the GT3 cars. They do not have the suspension to hit that curb. Most cars don't, in fact. There's quite a bit of wear and tear on this McLaren coming down to the pit lane. This is actually right in the window to be able to continue the race. So it's probably an unscheduled stop, but it is an opportune time to stop, as now Del Real continues to have a ton of pressure from Austin Cobb, who has some background noise in one of the Scuderia Chicken House Ferraris. That car is off laps. It's not in this battle for position, but he's got the pace. He's basically running right with the leaders on merit.
We are looking at lap 28 for Diego Del Real in his stint, lap 30 for Austin Cobb's stint. They went 38-36, I think, last time, so they're probably less than 10 minutes away from a pit stop. And then you have to plan that last stop. When is the best time? Are you, Tom, a driver that would rather make the last pit stop as soon as possible and kind of run a full tank, or you want to come in for a splash towards the end?
Yeah, I think getting it out of the way as soon as possible so that you can just have it done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And you have as much time to salvage whatever else has happened in the race. Essentially, once you've done that final pit stop, you're on track until the end. There's no other lifelines. There's no other opportunity to make up time or change the situation you're in. So you want that window to be as big as possible. It's why you'll see usually the teams in real life put the fastest driver in as quickly as possible towards the end of the race and have the slower drivers or the pit stops for the first drivers happen as quickly as possible.
Austin Cobb trying to keep pace with Diego Del Real, but he just cannot at the moment. And a lot of cars hitting pit lane now, a handful of 992 Porsches and the 30 Burning Bell Motorsports car, which we saw go off a couple laps ago.
Yep. And I have to wonder, going back to Cobb, I'm noticing that damage on the left front. I forget if that's been there this whole stint or this whole race. But I do wonder if that Lamborghini just has a little bit of a disadvantage right now on potentially straight line speed, just speculating, but you can see just ever so slightly wrinkled on the left front corner of that car. And what looked like a dead heat between these two at the beginning of the race is looking like Diego Del Real in the 22 Porsche really has a lot more pace right now.
Yeah. Now, I should also say, though, that last time around, and again, traffic is factoring in, but we talked about Zane Khan and his charge back to the front. He was a second, 1.1 quicker than both of those front drivers. Now, that math will get you there in time with 47-second deficit and probably about 55 laps to go.
Totally agree. Kind of scanning around, really the top 5 in the Porsche Cup class are really spread out. The thing keeping their race interesting is just how busy things are for them coming up on GT4s, getting passed by GT3s. And unfortunately, the battle in GT4 has fizzled quite a bit as well. It's not wildly far apart for the lead, though. There's your leader, Giovanni Romano, and there's second place, Alex Buehler, about a half a straightaway apart.
Yeah, the math is coming back in favor of the backflip boys at the moment. Slightly quicker than Romano at the moment, at least last lap. But, this is a game of averages. It's you can look at a timing screen and gain half a second one lap and then lose 2 seconds the next. It's just all about how the traffic flows. Remember, we started this race with 55 cars, and we still have 52 of those cars running actively on the racetrack. So, it's really difficult to look at one lap to the next and really gather an accurate prediction. And this is where in the real world, the teams will be looking at 5-lap pace, 10-lap pace, looking over a longer duration to see what kind of pace they need to hit in offense or defense. But right now, you can look and say, oh, he's quicker, but is he really? What's the trend?
Yeah, 100%. And I think we can also see that this stint's worth of drivers has really settled into the pace. Things have calmed down a bit, but only just in time for the stint to be coming to a close. We're going to get another cycle of pit stops, and it will not even be the final set of pit stops. This is Piero Pucci once again in the Buc-ee's livery Porsche, opening the door for the McLaren to get a drag race up the inside. Crowther takes it. It's in the top 10.
Looks like it's snowing up there with all the gravel bouncing around.
Especially with that livery, very Christmassy. It was like festive for a minute there.
I mean, look at this, and there's another Mercedes AMG off, but look at the gravel on course getting kicked around. I'm in awe of the popcorn effect system that iRacing uses for this. I think it's pretty impressive.
Side by side down the corkscrew for some Porsche Cups. There's 3 of them on top of each other. I'm not sure if that's a battle for position or not.
At least 2 of them are. And trouble for the Green Villain Motorsport car of Jeff Harris.
Harris was the one around a couple laps ago in this section, so I don't imagine he's on the same lap battling, but really pushed the issue, trying to run the outside there, and the car in the lead lap barely missing him is Raul Iriarte in the Cayman as well.
There's some damage to the rear of that car. Michael Montello climbing back behind the wheel of the Corvette. 1 hour, 20 minutes to go. And team just happy to be here. Noah Massey is in the box as well for GT4. Yanis Petrovic has picked up a penalty in the 35 car. They're down in 17th place in GT3, a couple of laps off the leaders, though. So, what's interesting to note, Tom, is looking at the overall order. At the very beginning of the race, there was a ton of mixing with the 992s and the GT3s. There are, as far as the drivers within 2 laps of the leader, there's only 3 992s now that are mixed in with the GT3 cars. So, we've sort of filtered them out over time, despite qualifying looking pretty equal-footed as far as pace.
Yeah. Just catching up on the YouTube chat, we still have almost 100 people watching live. Alex Cofford shared that lead GT4 car, not to jinx them, but they're only at 7x incident points so far in this race. That's just an indicator of how clean they've kept it to inherit that advantage, especially in the first stint. Every time we saw this car on camera, they were just making good choices. And I think that's kind of the byproduct of obviously the byproduct is you don't get a lot of incident points when you're running clean. The number 1 on the side of that car leading the way, but not by much. It's only maybe less than 10 seconds back to the second place car in class. Also hearing there might have been an administrative error with the fuel limits in the Mustang causing that big difference in how many laps they can do. So if that is the case, we apologize. We did the best we could, but may have overlooked that. It doesn't seem to be a game-making advantage. It might be game-changing slightly, but the Mustang's not just the best car because of it.
Yeah. A lot of complication in getting multi-class races set up, and how many times have I started a multi-class race and the grid was by overall, or or all the cars were their own classes. I've had that one happen before too. There's a lot of, think about it in the real world how hard it can be. I think sometimes iRacing makes it harder. Pit stops, Burning Bell, Calvin Owens. Wasn't this team just on pit lane?
This team was definitely just in an incident in the last 15 minutes, but I don't remember if it left them in the pit lane. That was a quick stop and go potentially. Actually, I gotta wonder, was a stop and go penalty a sign that they might have hit their incident limits? Remember, 30 points is a drive-through.
Scott Holtzman into the pit lane. And going back to the stints you see on the left-hand side of the screen, I would expect Austin Cobb to be pitting, well, not this time, but perhaps next time or the time after that. 35 laps on his run. That's basically all he did last time.
I think 37 is where he ended up pitting, so you're right, completely in the window. Also, taking a look at that overall standings in the top 10, Allison Drini up to 6th overall, and Ken Hauseal, although he's not necessarily in the fight for the lead currently, is still in the top 10 overall in the Porsche Cups. Allison Drini with a quick pit stop, taking a bathroom break as well. Can we stay here and watch him run back in?
That's exactly what I was going to do, Tom. You and I are synced.
We wouldn't do this to just anyone, but you got to do it to DJ. Come on. Car goes up for tires. The fueling must be done. So this is another 22 seconds you have to sit. Just by doing a little test the other day, it's 22 seconds down the pit lane as well. So this is going to be nearly a full lap of pit stop time relative to the rest of the field who's running under green.
He just slid it into that thing like a wet banana, just whoop, right into the seat. And off and away. Seamless.
Starting the third stint of the race, he's going to be one of the first cars to do so, at least one of the cars in contention. Hour and 19 minutes left.
Got a snack too. I love how close the webcam is to his face.
The nice part about the Porsche is it's not nearly as diabolical on its cold tires. So Allison Drini can get up to speed. All the Porsche Cups can get up to speed a little bit quicker. Comes out just ahead of that Mustang. Looking at the pit lane again, it's Austin Cobb now takes to the pit lane as we expected, right at his predicted mark. And that means Diego Del Real will probably be maybe another lap or two before we see that driver. It was only 2 seconds between the two before the pit stop. It's obviously going to be much bigger while they cycle through. Also, while pit stops cycle through, for third in class, Zane Khan sits third now.
Yeah, so this is where I think he can make some big gains. He was third prior to the pit stop sequence, but I'm not exactly sure how much time drivers can make up at most racetracks, but I feel like if you kind of understand the pit in and pit out of Laguna Seca, you can make up a second or two on drivers that maybe have less experience here. And he's been so aggressive today. Still lapping fairly decent laps, and certainly a podium looking likely, but I think it would be possible mathematically for him to win this race should he execute on the pit stop sequence and continue the pace he's running.
Yeah, it's possible, and really there's something to be said for getting a setback early. It can kind of lock you into this zone that can be really difficult to lock into without a setback. Once you get a little bit angry, and then you're just really locked into what's going on. It seems to be the perfect intersection of aggressive and making time up, and maybe that kind of mindset is what put him back at the beginning of the race just a little bit. That's completely fair to assume as possibility, but in general, he really hasn't put a foot wrong since the first stint, coming past Jared Garcia there in the Mercedes.
Busy turn 9 here, rainy curve, a lot of cars in the way, so you got to kind of figure out what's the best way to go around. Not really awkward here. Pick a lane.
And that's the kind of assertion you can do. He really just kind of spooked the Mustang out of the way. Didn't do anything wrong, but that driver just letting him through, passes the GT4 second place driver as well. Now coming up underneath, a battle between a GT4 lapper and one of the P-Cups. That's the number 55. I think Kevin Zhu is still behind the wheel of that one.
It's Rick Valdez behind the wheel at the moment.
Oh, similar livery. You're right. They're two different cars. Valdez sitting a little further down, 39th overall, 16th in class. We also have a hard charger award for one of those Spicy Cat Racing. That's going to be within the class. So if you had an incident and charged back through, you're not really eligible for it. But we definitely have to go through the results at the end and take a look at who picked up the most positions. And that's essentially, in my mind, an indication of who had the cleanest race. If you got a relatively poor qualifying position with a super clean race, you're inevitably making up a bunch of spots.
Here's Luke McGrew from Hurricane, West Virginia, and they're 3 wide. Austin Cobb goes around the outside of him. Luke in familiar territory with big, heavy rear-wheel drive cars. And slotting in tow here. See what this big little Jared Racing car can do in the latter half of this race.
Wow, that was so close at the apex of 5. Cobb with the spidey senses. McGrew as well, really. That took 2 to get through there clean. Cobb needs to make these laps as fast as possible because Diego Del Real is, I think, just now working his way towards his pit lap.
That's laps led here. As far as stint length for Diego, he is on his 37th lap. I think we saw him pit on the 38th or 39th, so you're right on there. Zane Khan in. So another thing to consider is pit stop time between himself and Austin Cobb in the battle for second. It was 33.3 in the box for Austin Cobb last time. Let's see if Khan makes up some ground there. And here comes Diego.
So that means he's gone 2 hours and 45 minutes. Is that right? No, 1 hour and 45 minutes. I can't math. That will mean that he doesn't need to do a full fuel stint at the end. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of game time decision making and how much fuel you put in the car. How close do you cut that final pit stop for all of these drivers? But the further up you are in the field, the lower gamble you want to take. If you're a driver like Diego Del Real, you don't want to spend a bunch of time in pit lane only to just barely short fuel the car and not make the end of the race, right? Like you're basically sitting in the catbird seat to be on the podium. So you have to do that mental math really, really quickly, especially when you're driving by yourself. You don't have a teammate to bounce that math off of. You're doing laps in 1 minute and 20 seconds at Laguna Seca with 3 different classes, and then you've got to do math. It's a lot.
Just to note that Khan made up 7/10 on Austin Cobb, not in the pit box, but in the pit lane, like I was talking about on that entry road in particular. 7/10 of a second there. So that maybe when your gap is still 40 plus seconds, it's not a huge inroad, but think about how many battles we've seen that have been half a second separated all night long with just a bit more aggressive charge in. You can make up a lot of ground, basically not on the racetrack.
It's proper lizarding there, is practicing your pit ins, practicing your pit outs. It's totally true. I mean, it's a joke, but it also is totally true. Think about how much work it takes to gain 6 or 7/10 of a second on somebody on the track. You practice that pit in and you can make up seconds worth of time. It's more like autocrossing really, but if you nail that, it's a huge advantage. Del Real now having just completed, I don't think he came through the pits that lap. Maybe we'll expect him to lap.
He did okay. Come in, but he is now out ahead. Again, as the overall leader, his pit stop was actually a second shorter. So maybe with he's sort of planning his last pit stop here because he's run a couple laps longer. He doesn't have to take a full tank if he doesn't want to. I suppose you could take a little bit less than full on both these next few stops. But he gained some ground.
Top 5 in GT3 still on the same lead lap. Diego Del Real now leading after pit stop cycling through. Austin Cobb second. Zane Khan in third. Reed Gibson just left the pit lane in fourth. That's the gold Ferrari coming through turn 3. And just behind for position is Montello Racing's Corvette. So these two have continued to battle it out, except I don't know that the Chicken House car did have one drive-through penalty, so they may be slightly off cycle, but they're still doing a good job. We saw a lot of pace in that car when it was near the top 2 cars.
Yeah, curious now. I mean, if Montello's got tires fully up to temp here and a few under his rhythm, if Reed Gibson is able to hang on to this, so far doing a nice job. P4, and look at this lunge on the brakes though for Michael Montello. Sticks a nose up the inside, but Gibson doesn't give in. Now we're just kind of in this cruise mode. Again, within an hour and 15 left, you start to focus on that last pit stop, Tom. You start to kind of reevaluate your position. You're starting to run your fuel numbers. What lap, what time, who am I around? How am I going to catch traffic? But there are no immediate on-fire battles at the moment to take you to other than this one for fourth in GT3. And Michael Montello working his way by the number 16 Porsche of Zach Rubin.
Car running fourth in class. They're 1 lap down from the class leader, Allison Drini, as is basically the whole field in Porsche Cup. Second place, Will Brunner has gotten behind the wheel of the Liberty Bell Husbands car that was driven by Ken Hausiel earlier. And then the Toffbaum Racing Ryan Christoph car sits in third. Taking a look at that car going through turn 10, and Zach Rubin is not all, well, actually, yes, he has dropped further back since last time I looked, back in turn 6.
Montello still hounding Gibson here for fourth in GT3. Both of these cars are mid-engine. One is a flat plane crank V8. One is a small displacement twin turbo V6. I've heard stories about this Corvette GT3, Tom, with this this engine type when they were trying to mount onboard cameras in these things, that the engine was mounted so rigidly to the car and it produced so much vibration that they couldn't keep an onboard camera alive for a couple of months until they figured out how to mount the camera and kind of reduce the vibration enough to keep it from rocking itself to death.
That's pretty incredible. That's some K24 problems there. You have to isolate all the vibrations, and I don't envy anybody who has to go through that process, because all it takes is time. Just put the car on track and see what breaks, and luckily it's just a camera, I guess. But that's pretty intense if that's how the engineering of that car is within the tolerance of that.
I don't put it past GM to make no compromises on performance at the expense of maybe a little comfort here and there. But Reed Gibson still in command of that fourth place position. Montello's battle fizzles for a moment. Tyler Smith and Dana Basinski. This is a battle on the front straightaway for 12th place in the 992 category. Basinski with a nice run up the inside here. A little bit of GT4 traffic. That's the 29, fifth place car of Josh Case that they're working by.
Is close stuff. It's so tempting to show your nose halfway through that corner, but it basically is a double apex at the Andretti hairpin. And the car in front, while it may look like it's opening the door, is just setting up for that second apex. Both cars going to get through on, this was Mike Leader early on in 53, not sure who's in it now. GT4 Mustang making that pass nice and easy for both of these cars. Leader still behind the wheel of that kind of aviation throwback liveried Mustang.
Yeah, Leader's car, that's a neat looking machine at 53. There it is. Michael Montello still hounding Gibson. Again, you look away. Like two puppies in a dog park. They're just tucked right up each other's tails at the moment. And working up to turn 6 still. Clock ticking down. Keeping our eyes on the lead battle. It's not so much of a difference in GT3 between Diego and Zane. It's still 45 seconds between them. But Austin Cobb has dropped off the tail of Del Real, and Kane is catching Cobb at a fairly good clip. About 0.8 seconds last time around.
My experience with this...
1.8.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Larger gap.
My experience with this Corvette is it's a very, very momentum-driven car. It's not necessarily anything special in any particular category, but it's very good everywhere, which means a little spin on the front straight, harmless for everybody. But what that means is you can't race that car nearly as well in traffic as perhaps some of the other cars. I think the Ferrari especially is a pretty strong package. The Porsche also really strong off the corners. Charles Schlew trying to find a way back in. I think this was self-inflicted. He was relatively by himself. On the exit of this corner, these cars do have traction control, but it can't just drive through anything. Grabs a little bit of dirt, goes for a ride.
Oh, bounced the right front corner off the wall as well. But he is back rolling now. I don't really see a lot of damage on that car, but it does put him down to 19th in class. And how about this battle? Zach Pritchard and Dane Perkins. We haven't mentioned Dane yet today.
running with the Skid Mark Sim Racing blue team. 15th at this moment, and they started this race 18th.
It's the other Scuderia Chicken House car coming through. And when I say coming through, he didn't really give him another option. Just really shoved the nose through there. And actually, that is the third place car that has earned a couple of car lengths on the Montello Racing Corvette. Those two were nose to tail last time we looked. The traffic has taken quite a bit away from the Montello car. So it's looking like this. Go ahead.
Nope. Well, the GT4 field, Giovanni Romano's got some traffic he's letting go on by. But again, looking at their stints and the positions that they're in, Giovanni Romano is going to owe us a pit stop pretty shortly. The other drivers around him have already made their stop, so this could make the GT4 battle a little spicier. Remember that their lead was only about 11 seconds, and pit stop can make or break that, and he's got to let by some GT3 cars at an awkward spot there.
Does, and I mentioned that administrative error on the fuel limits. The only thing that might introduce is if they can go down to a two-stop race, which would be a huge advantage for that Mustang over the Porsches that are hounding it, and that would be on us. As fun as this race is meant to be, that would be a big oversight from us to have made that happen. But it looks like that's what they're trying to stretch it to. If they get this Mustang within the 1 hour mark, it'll be a two-stop strategy for this car, which will probably gift it maybe a full lap after the time spent in the pit lane for the other cars. Regardless, they have driven a very, very nice race. Every time we see this car, I say it again, they've just been making good choices in traffic, lubricating the passes appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, you never want the fuel situation or an administrative error to affect the outcome of a race, but this car was the leader well before the first pit stop, and it was a growing lead. So, maybe it'll affect the possibility. You can never say what might have happened, but at the same time, I feel pretty good that the Huge Ass team has driven well enough to deserve this lead regardless, and we'll see how it pans out from here.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Here didn't win them the race, right? They still have to finish. So.
Sure, exactly. we might have put the bow on it, but we didn't wrap the present, right?
Yep.
At the front, Diego Del Real continues to lead up to 7 seconds gap. He's just behind that car we were just watching. Austin Cobb will pop into view just about now over the hill. And Zane Khan has continued to chip away at this thing in the Ferrari. He's down to 45 seconds behind the overall race leader. He sits third in class, having started fourth. Remember, this Ferrari was fastest in practice by a decent margin, a couple tenths up on Del Real. And then qualifying didn't go his way. The start of the race didn't go his way. Maybe did a little bit of it to himself. Maybe ended up in the worst possible spot a couple times, and now has just been on a charge ever since. Touched up underneath the back of, is that Brzezinski back in the Porsche?
Yeah, it is Brzezinski back at that 992. Yeah, for Zane Khan, looking at 42 seconds now between himself and race leader. There's about 48 laps to go. So the difference last time was 0.6 of a second. So the math says that he's going to get close. I just, can you keep up a differential that significant all the way to the end of the race, and you have another pit stop to handle? It's not going to be easy by any stretch, but this is kind of fun to watch this gap close up with the anticipation of maybe Khan giving Cobb and Real a run for their money.
Yeah, it'll have us slowly leaning forward in our chairs, no doubt, as it looks like Del Real has really found his footing in this race. Has definitely an upper hand on Cobb at this point, so we can catch him in a particularly quiet moment down into turn 2.
A lot of gravel and dirt and debris on course. Real catching the GT4 class leader. There's Giovanni Romano. And seamless pass there. And how about Jack Stadola, a name we haven't really talked a ton about today, that NYS DOT livery car, the yellow machine, the 18. And then that is Spencer Beaudoin in the Gizzard Lizard Wizard Racing number 10. That
pass just happened on the front straight. The NYS DOT car, that black and yellow, completing the pass. Looks like it's got quite a bit more pace as he's starting to drive away just a little bit. And honestly, it's not too far back to Ido Waxman, who's maybe a corner and a half behind that battle for position across those three, 8th, 9th, and 10th in class. Stadola's another driver we see in a lot of league races, puts a lot of time and work and effort into the sim racing, and that's one of the big things, as serious as this race, we want people to take it and all that. The sim racing is also for fun and for staying fresh, and Stadola really leads into that. I don't know that he does a lot of real world driving at this point in his life, but has in the past. And again, we see him, a couple times a week on a weekly basis, putting time in, has to bail out of a late pass on the 47. He really, really did not want that pass to happen in turn 9. Now makes it easy for turn 10.
And Jack Scott behind him, the Lizard Wizard racing car, still trying to keep touch. But again, to your point, the pace from the 18 looks a fair bit quicker at this stage of the race. I've got a penalty showing for the Scuderia United Motorsports car, Zach Xavier. This car owes us a trip to pit lane.
I think 5th in class, but is the first car. Let's see, we've got Allison Drini on a lap by himself. Then we've got the Liberty Bell husbands, Will Brunner behind the wheel, Toffbaum, Ryan Christoph in that car, Zach Rubin. Those are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They're all in the same lap. And then it's another lap down for Zach Xavier. So he's the first car off the proverbial lead lap in class, let's say, effectively. And that's going to put him pretty vulnerable to the on-the-ledge racing car of Daniel McKelvey. That's also going to put him maybe back in the clutches of Valdis Vincevicius, who is running 7th in class.
Down through Rainy Curve. My experience around here riding with Matan Rosenberg a couple years ago was that the corkscrew is only the 3rd best corner at Laguna Seca. I thought that turn 6 and Rainy Curve, and turn 10 for that matter, were all really, really fun corners to drive. And this place has a really nice flow to it. Oh, trouble. That's one of the GT4s. That was, which car was that? That was Manu Sankar, I believe. Is that DJ Alessandrini sneaking by?
Yeah, sure is. Down the inside of the corkscrew, and then the Cayman. This car ultimately has an incident down towards the bottom of this corner. Ooh, just loses the back end. Very P-cup maneuver for a Cayman, but see the driver aids just kicking in. The car slides forever. Doesn't go for a full spin though.
Yeah, you just hear the trash go, and you can't get the wheels to do anything you want them to do.
It's the worst feeling because, I mean, if you could just lock the car down, it would come to a stop much sooner, but those driver aids are helpful in all but that scenario.
So Spicy Cat Racing still leads out front. Checking back in on Giovanni Romano, they are now within 1 hour of the finish of this race. They are on lap 38 of their stint, so in theory, could they go to the end now? They must, with 38 laps.
Yeah, if you divide a 3-hour race up nice and evenly into hours, he's definitely in the window to keep it a 2-stopper. For a little while, that came in behind was in the battle. Udo Waxman loses the back just a little bit, has to gather it up. That's Dana Baczynski gets through, and then a Porsche GT3 car behind, not in class. Awkward stuff because of this Cayman. Dives to the inside. They're going to go single file now nicely. Baczynski's on a bit of a charge. Pucci did not quite have the pace of his teammate, but did a nice clean stint as far as we know. And now Baczynski's on a nice charge back. The teammate 6 car sits just outside the top 10 in class, actually right at 10th.
I think they'll be happy with this. They struggled a little bit in the previous Lizard Brains Enduro, and starting in 12th, again, a field of effectively 20 cars to be top 10. I think Dana and Piero will be proud of this run.
And they're on the same lap as the Gizzard's Lizard Wizard racing car, which is up in turn 5, so 2 turns ahead, maybe 20 seconds or so, who is also right on the back bumper of Jack Stadola in that New York Safety DOT car, New York State, excuse me. So those 3 cars, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dana Baczynski run those other 2 down if he's got a little bit of pace.
Leader DJ Alessandrini putting the Gizzard Lizard Wizard car down another lap. And 57 minutes to go. Ben Galashan, I think, is on pit lane in the number 49 GT3.
So this is going to get really interesting. This reminds me, we're coming up on the window where the leaders could pit for their final pit stop. And that's going to open that strategy window that we were discussing about an hour ago, where do you pit right away and just fill it up and run to the end, or do you run this tank empty and short fill on your final stint? And a lot of that comes down to how quick are you at the mental math. Do you know exactly how much fuel you need? Are you willing to risk cutting that final fueling short? Here's Zane Khan running 3rd, getting around Luke McGrew down the front straightaway. McGrew keeping it very easy for him to get through, as a lap traffic should. The gap to the leader for this driver is now under 40 seconds, so he's just continuing to absolutely chisel away at the top two's lead. I'm going to guess they probably don't even know this car is potentially in contention right now, unless they have a teammate watching, which neither of them do, for Diego Del Real and Austin Cobb.
So I'm also curious for Zane, in this charge, assuming that he knows he's in this battle, I think, it'd probably be wise for him to stay on the racetrack and just take that splash so you can exactly calculate and take the minimum amount of fuel. I think you kind of have to leave yourself a little bit more if you make that earlier pit stop. And, if you're Zane Khan and you end this race with a half a gallon too much, that's time you could have saved on the pit lane.
It is, and he's the driver. This is the driver that really, I think it pays off to take that risk more so than certainly Diego Del Real in the lead. He has the least need to take that big risk. I would say Austin Cobb could take the risk, but really, if you're Khan, you really want to take as little time as possible. Just absolutely steal every 10th second, even a couple seconds here and there. Because that would be a huge surprise to Cobb and Del Real if all of a sudden that Ferrari started popping into their relative screens on position.
A couple cars in pit lane from GT4. Gizzard Lizard Wizard Racing in the number 10. That name is so hard to say. They are tracking back down Jack Sedola here, and there's plenty of traffic up ahead that could sort of be the catalyst to some more action. Big wiggle there and a downshift for Spencer Beaudoin.
When these two have the Dana Baczynski car coming up pretty quickly. He's only a couple corners behind. Tell me what's up.
Must have had a spin for Diego Del Real because he has lost some ground, and he was up the road from Austin Cobb, and then was it right here? Contact with the Mercedes on the brakes turns him off the racetrack, and he's now behind Austin Cobb by 1.6 seconds. So this is going to turn the race up on its head, and that's exactly the kind of thing that Zane Khan needs to run both of them down.
Yeah, pretty unacceptable from the Mercedes, especially getting lapped from the race leader. Disappointed to see that, but it does wake the race up just a little bit. This car's quicker at the 22. Del Real now sets his sights. There's no cars between him and the Lamborghini that now leads the race, but Cobb has now gotten his second Christmas present from the race, and at both times it's to the detriment of Diego Del Real.
Yeah, so we're about 41 laps-ish away from Checker based on the pace that we're running. The most we've seen a GT3 car go is 38, so we're within 2 or 3 laps of Diego hitting pit lane, and I'm sure that they'd rather, whoop, there's a car shooting off the road in front of him. That's Austin Cobb, the race leader, and everybody dodges and weaves. And he's right in the middle of the racetrack. And he's going to back up straight into traffic and clobber the 44.
Oh, and that's a race ender for Cobb. Trying to get out of the way. His heart was in the right spot, but it was unpredictable. And unfortunately, Franz Hansen just drives straight into him with a little bit of target fixation, but did nothing wrong ultimately. What a shocker. This is going to mean that Diego Del Real is essentially all but won this race as long as he keeps it clean.
Wow. And for Cobb there, again, I'm not exactly sure what tripped this up. He just ran wide all on his own, hit the end of the curb, and spun.
Yeah, he's been flirting with that exit curb every single lap. He's been finding, I think it's been finding him a little bit of pace, actually. That's a heartbreaker for both of those cars, but really Cobb was in such a good spot.
The irony is that they're right next to each other on the pit lane, so the virtual teams will be having a conversation about that, I'm sure.
So the way this works is it takes a certain amount of time to tow, quote unquote, tow your car back to pit lane. But if Cobb has a fast repair, the car will just pop back into perfect health and he can leave. If he chose not to use that fast repair earlier, we actually mentioned it, he could still have it in his back pocket to get back out on the, probably not the lead lap, but maybe in the top grouping of this class. And now it's basically down to Del Real and Khan.
So we'll see how things shake out here. Really unfortunate for that 44 team there, man. But out in front, now it's Diego Del Real leading again by 27 seconds. But that math just got a lot easier for Zane Khan, and he's still chipping away nearly a second a lap. This is a hard-charging Ferrari, and if I'm on Spicy Cat Racing, I've got my red flags up that 296 is coming.
Yeah, and if he even knows, I mean, it's the chances of these cars having been near each other enough for Diego to know that this car is still in the lead lap is pretty low. You're just locked into the race, super busy. And meanwhile, that entire time, Zane Khan has just been running him down, but he doesn't really know it yet. Just in front is the leader in the Porsche Cup class. That's DJ Alessandrini showing the nose on the ledge racing car. I think that's McKelvey behind the wheel of that car, both in the same class, but McKelvey is actually 2 laps down from Alessandrini. He's not going to make it easy, shuts the door, and Kahn's going to go up the inside. Alessandrini opens the door for him, doesn't need to take any risks, and they're all getting past the Mercedes on the outside, doing a nice job to be predictable.
Austin Cobb dropping down the order more as more GT3s rumble by the start line here. Again, I think it's unfortunate that Kahn doesn't have a team member with him, because I'd be on the horn here about the aggression level. I see him just like charging these corners, diving in really late. I know that he's got to be on a bit of a charge, but I think the math works better in his favor already. I don't know that he needs to take another extra 10 steps and potentially trip.
Yeah, the other question is, he had those multiple trips to the pit lane early on. The very first stint, this car was on pit lane twice. I don't know if that maybe opened up the window for him to be a little bit better on fuel than other cars. We're going to have to see how that plays out. But I'm with you. I'm not convinced this race is done. I know Del Real has a huge advantage, but it's not over for sure.
Well, looking at their laps in their current stint, Spicy Cat Racing 17 laps, the same for the Kahn coaching car. So they are effectively on exactly the same strategy now, despite the first part of the race looking pretty different between the two.
Yeah, and that's for the pit stops early. That was one penalty and 1 fast repair, I think, for this Ferrari. He stayed on the lead lap, but don't forget, Diego Del Real has not had a flawless race. It maybe wasn't his fault either, but he has been in the dirt twice backwards and set back probably around 20 seconds total, which is not that different from what Zane Kahn was set back early in this race. So both of them trying to salvage what they can left over of this one. I think both cars look perfectly clean and in full performance. Franz Hansen was able to get back out with a fast repair. This 44 car caught up in that incident with Austin Cobb, but Cobb's still sitting on pit lane. He did send an apology through the group chat in the sim. That doesn't necessarily make his race feel any better. Again, his heart was in the right spot with what he was trying to do. It's just a lot happening really quick.
Yeah, good to see Franz back out there, though, still in the top 10. I guess in situations like that, when you make a mistake, I guess the silver lining, if there is one, is that you've sort of hurt yourself probably more than the competitor that was involved. So maybe that's one way to look at it. But Franz still running. Just got our eyes just peeled on different battles that are formulating. My timing screen highlights when there are cars that are within a second. And just watching cars tumble down the hill now. Is that the 16? Zach Rubin? No, that wasn't Zach Rubin. That was the 55, Rick Valdez. Here's what just happened to him.
Coming up the corkscrew with the GT4 leader just behind. Shouldn't feel much pressure there. Really late on the brakes. Tries to knife to the apex. And that's just going to put you over the cliff. Luckily, you don't feel all the bumps through there in the sim, but that ride sucks when you're in real life.
We had a number of cars do that at Grid Life Laguna this year. Pretty great camera work over there to watch those things fly over. But Chris Harp and Calvin Owens. This is a couple of drivers running Ford Mustang GT3 machinery. Calvin Owens closing in the Burning Bell Motorsports car. They had a really big moment at turn 10 about halfway through the race. And were able to sort of gather it back up. I think I have that one on replay. This was earlier in this race, coming down the hill. This is up through, maybe this is a more different replay. Yeah, right here is where they hammered this curb. Bam.
Yep.
Got away
and
with
that led to a pit stop relatively close after that.
Yeah, that could have ended up a lot worse.
So Kyle, coming up on 45 minutes left in the race, we're basically at the point where the GT3 cars and Porsche Cups should be able to pit and make it to the end. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the pit lane get very busy for the final time here in the next couple of minutes. And again, that big question mark, there's probably, I'm going to guess just a rough number, I didn't calculate this, but there's probably a nearly 20-minute buffer between now and when you could complete your final pit stop at the very, very last second on fumes for the cars like this one. Diego Del Real continuing to lead GT3 and inherited it based on the self-spin and ultimate collection of Austin Cobb a couple laps ago. Enjoys a 20-second lead, but that doesn't tell the whole story. That 20-second lead was over a minute over the last hour, and second place driver, this one right here, Zane Khan, has put in a hell of a drive over the last hour and a half to put himself back in potential contention for the win.
Yeah, he's flying right now. And last time by, here's a stat for you. He just ran his best lap of the race, 120.168. And that is also, I believe, the fastest lap that anybody has run. So he just went purple with 46 minutes to go in a 3-hour race.
Wow. And fast lap of the race wins a Spicy Cat Racing membership, which, to my understanding, is a roughly $500 value. That would be a big, big, big win, even if he doesn't win the race, getting a prize like that. And I think he just barely ended up in a pretty lucky run through that final corner. That could have been much messier than it was with the McLaren and the Mustang. But this is the kind of stuff that every time we've cut to this car, he's just making these butter smooth moves through traffic and he's losing very, very little time relative to what we've seen others have.
Just to bring up a point about the lap time, though, he has the best lap of the race by over 0.4 of a second, spin behind him. That was, which car was that? That was one of the Porsches. Oh, there's more trouble out of turn 9 now. I can't find these cars because that's one of the Mustangs. Getting back rolling now. But going back to Zane Khan, his best lap, 0.4 better than the next best 10 laps. Next best lap. That's how much faster he is than anybody else today. That's a really impressive this late in the race. But he's got to finish the job and get it done, and it's going to get progressively harder as he moves forward.
No doubt about that. And there's still the final pit stop cycle to do as well. One more out lap on cold tires. I mean, all of this, there's still so many moving parts in the final 45 minutes of this race. So we saw a 992 Cup car self-spin just in front of Khan, but I don't think there was any issue with contact there. And then there was that GT3 Mustang, the Wonder Bread car, also still trying to find exactly who those two were with the issues in the last lap or so. Brian Taylor was the Mustang that went around in the Great Shatspeed Racing car.
Nick Bauer just went, did a personal best lap and then spun out, I think, because he's down about 19 seconds. Where was? Go ahead.
Classic sim racing move. You set your fast lap and wreck in turn 1. I do that all the time. He didn't make it.
Oh, in this case, it was turn 6.
All the way to turn 6. Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, chasing green there.
Cut back and make sure there was no contact between Khan and the Porsche Cup car that went around now nearly 2 laps ago. Having the same issue you are with so many cars to find. I think after 2 hours we know who's who. But
yeah, there's just a lot going on the timing screen. There's a lot of go ahead.
This Porsche Cup car, I think it was a self-spin on exit. No, it was contact. Ooh, race director is going to be looking at that one. And again, the general rule has been if you significantly hurt someone else's race, that's on you. That was just front to rear contact, which is usually unacceptable in any circumstance.
Well,
carries a little bit more apex speed.
To play devil's advocate here, again, I know you're typically from behind you're responsible, but that car it kind of stops going. It was not accelerating on the apex, which doesn't necessarily make it not Khan's fault, but it really caught him off guard.
Yeah, really easy to have. I mean, it's a completely understandable incident, and that's honestly probably partly why Khan has been making such crazy time up on everybody else. He's operating on these assumptions. For example, that Porsche Cup car, in his mind, should be getting on throttle and carry a relatively similar exit speed. He was probably going for a run to end up getting a pass, and that type of risky thought is what can be super beneficial. But then one incident like that, especially if it results in contact with a drive-through penalty, it takes away all that work, and it's just that risk reward constantly.
Yeah, I have a hunch.
Ultimate all.
I have a hunch that the Porsche was not accelerating because he was going to try to hold the inside, leaving the turn. And this is something that you and DJ had talked about on a podcast lately about, the art of getting out of the way and kind of disappearing into the pocket, right? And I think maybe that Porsche could have done that if it was 30 feet further up the road. He would have pulled to the inside. The Ferrari carries momentum to the outside and no one touches anybody. But just the timing of that didn't quite work out.
Exactly.
42 minutes to go. And the closest battle in class is actually for 9th place in GT4. And though it's not for 2nd place anymore, it's Lathrop and Brock back at it.
That's very interesting, actually. Yeah, these two were battling in the first stint for 2nd place, along with Alex Bueller, now have found themselves locked together once again, just behind the number 29. Is that potentially for position as well?
29 is for position. Yeah, Josh Case. So this is going to be for 8th.
Not too far up the road is Franz Hansen. Despite his tow and repair, he was doing really well in the class and now sits just ahead of these two. He's hitting the apex of turn 6 just now, so call it maybe 5 or 6 seconds up the road. This is a great little scrap for, it may not feel like much, but it is for position across these 3 or 4 cars. Lathrop, big run up the inside. I think Josh Case maybe feeling like he doesn't need to fight this one too hard. We're just running our race. You guys go through. Loses 2 positions in class, but continues to circulate in that Mustang. I love the little mat, the driver's mat, the kids' toy mat on this on this livery.
I had one of those myself. Loved it.
It's DJ sound deadening in his sim room.
Is it really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
He doesn't use driver suits too? That's a deep cut. Calvin Owens and Chris Harp still going at it. Burning Bell versus penalty box. And they're packed in behind what is still the second place Porsche, the Liberty Bell husband's car, William Brunner. So a little bit of energy kind of getting packed up behind the cork here.
I think these cars making speed so similarly. Look at the Porsche just leap off that final corner, and the Mustangs really want by. This is Will Brunner continuing to run second place. He's on his own lap, actually sitting second in the Porsches. The rest of the field currently another lap down from them.
Just notice your panic call out had ABS there into 11. You went, ooh.
Who, I did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I meant to do that. Yeah.
But 40 minutes left. And fight's still on. The lead fight, by the way, Zane Khan's pace differential between himself and Diego Del Real has slowed way down. He saw him have to go all sorts of directions to get around that Ford. The gap has sort of stabilized now at 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's still incrementally creeping down, and I just mentioned the risk reward again. How close he cut it to the outside of that Mustang through Rainy Curve. That kind of stuff is what buys you the time that's been earning him all the wins recently, as far as chipping away on that penalty, on that win. What am I trying to say? On that leader, excuse me. But also can just be such a risky maneuver, just absolutely apexing the headlight of a slower car. The first of our pit stops in GT4 look to be starting.
Thomas Lathrop is one of the drivers that is in. And this will be a driver swap. Raul Iriarty will climb in for the tail end of this race. Oh boy. 2 Mustangs and the second place car in the Porsche 992 category. Brunner on the outside, trying to lean in on the brakes. And the Mustangs go by.
And Chris Harp did a nice job to earn a position somehow there. The white and blue Mustang ended up getting by Calvin Owens in the black Mustang. So those two switch positions while passing Ken Hauseal, who has Jack Stadola on his flank now. That's not for position. Yellow and black Porsche is a lap down at least from Will Brunner here in the blue and gold. But those cars making very similar pace. In fact, looks like Stadola might have a little bit more pace in that car. He's just got to be careful not to affect the other car's race since he's laps ahead.
Yeah, the car that he's directly fighting on his lap that's near him is Dana Basinski in the Team 86 car. They are up to 9th place in classes. I think the highest that they've been for a while. And they've got to get around a couple other cars to get up to them, including the Mercedes AMG just ahead. That is the big little Jared racing car of Luke McGrew behind the wheel. And Dana and Luke have raced each other before a handful of times in the real world, let alone in iRacing.
I love seeing the collection of people that have put their effort into this race. We have drivers we know from so many different real world paddocks, drivers we know from so many different Discords who play sim racing together. It kind of warms my heart to see this many people giving us the time and the opportunity to put on a good race. I think this has been, again, a tall order, putting this set of cars, these 3 different classes on a track like this. And for the most part, I still think it's been relatively good. That second stint was a little rough, but third and fourth stints, as they're incoming now, been relatively good. Luke McGrew grabs some dirt at the entry to turn 4, goes for a big slide. Baczynski almost gets into the door, but I think it's no harm, no foul for either car. Maybe a little incident point there for the 45.
Well, this is at least a cool shot.
Yeah. All right. We'll take it. Style points for Luke McGrew.
Oh, man. But to your point, I mean, looking at this field of 55 cars, we still have about 49 of them running at this stage in the race, which is a much better success ratio than even the real world series that would run these cars. I mean, if you tried to run a WeatherTech race at this racetrack with 55 cars, you would be wadding up about 10 of them before the first 15 or 20 minutes are over.
Possible, if not likely, that's for sure.
Yes. Fast resets probably didn't hurt, but again, what fun is it if a minor incident takes you out for the whole day? This is supposed to be fun, I thought, Tom, so why not?
Totally. At the top of the board, Diego Del Real continues to lead, but it's down under 15 seconds now for the first time all race since that first incident for Zane Khan. This is Del Real working some traffic down into the final corner, clears the GT4 Cayman nicely, and will take a deep breath to see a nearly empty front straight just in front of him. And it looks like basically everybody has chosen to push this fuel stint as long as possible, do a little bit of short fuel, and then run the cars lighter on fuel until the very end of the race, which is a smart move. I didn't really consider that lighter fuel load being a big deal, but I think it is if you have the option.
I think you're right about that. And again, these last 35 minutes are going to go by very, very quickly. And just on the left-hand side of the screen, this is the laps in the stint. So another 10 laps or so is all these front two cars can do. But Scuderia Chickenhouse, by the way, the Ferrari in 5th, they're done pitting. And they're the only the only team in the top 10 in GT3 that is in that position.
That could be a really nice spot. The 4th place car in class, we've seen it a couple times, but it's been a quiet race relatively for the Miatas with Friends car. This is John Chrissy currently behind the wheel, and then he's been sharing that car earlier in the race with Klaus Wood. They run 4th. They're the last car in the lead lap, but they're certainly within the noise that once they do their pit stop, the Scuderia Chickenhouse car of Sam Mayorga will clear them.
And lap time wise, Mayorga is actually running really efficient laps at the moment. 121.9 last time by. That was actually quicker than Michael Montello, Zane Khan, and Diego Del Real last time by. And I wonder if that's maybe potentially due. Well, he was only in the box for 32 seconds. That's not long enough for tires, I don't think, right, Tom? Or is it?
Yeah, no, it is. It is,
okay.
Because the fueling happens at the same time as tires
yes,
in this car. So it's, I mean, it was a quick stop, but we would expect it to be a relatively short fuel because of being within nearly 30 minutes of the end of this race. And that's going to put them really close to where also the Montello racing car is. Michael Montello now in turn 6 in this Corvette, only 4 seconds up the road from John Chrissy in the Miatas with Friends Porsche. So I think this is looking pretty good for this Sam Mayorga Chickenhouse car.
Think you're dead on. Could it be a podium potentially, or even better than that? And who knows? You know, again, we've seen the risks that Khan's taken. We've seen Del Real get kind of tagged in things that weren't of his doing. So it's not over until it's over. You see the headlights flashing vigorously up the inside here at Rainy Curve.
Awkward stuff between that's effectively teammates. Brian Lorman running the race in that Porsche, in that Mustang under Spicy Cat Racing. He owns the company. Diego Del Real running the livery and the team name on the car in the overall lead. It's been a clunky moment for them to have an interaction, but Michael Montello now reports to the pit lane for his final stop. Will we see Anthony probably get back in the car, I wonder? Those two splitting the race.
Will be Anthony, yes, getting back in the car. Good call there. Luke McGrew is on pit lane, and it will be Freddie De La Rosa climbing back behind the big little Jared Racing car.
Freddie was really impressive in that opening stint until the bit of contact was deemed their fault. They had the one drive-through penalty. They're kind of still in the conversation, but are 2 laps down now from the overall leader.
And here is your GT4 leader, still huge ass, Giovanni Romano. About 15 to 20 seconds ahead of the backflip boys in RMS with Rev Match. Manu Sankar dropping a tire there, letting some traffic on by. DJ Alessandrini, leader in 992 Cup. He is into the box for the final time.
But he pit from 5th overall. So he's been flirting. I'm sure it's a goal for him to finish as far up the overall order as possible. Now taking that painful extra 20 seconds to get some tires on that car, that's paid off for him nicely.
It's like twitching, waiting for this thing to hit the ground again.
Cannot wait, rearing at the bit.
Lizards hate pit stops.
That could be a good shirt.
I'm not moving. There you go. Immediately calms back down.
I wanted, for a moment there, the right front of that car looked a little funky. Does it look weird to you?
It sure does, doesn't it? Oh, it really does. He's definitely had some contact. And how long was that pit stop? It was a 42-second stop.
Oh, and I guarantee you he doesn't have a fast repair, or else he would have fixed that. That car might feel like absolute garbage right now. It depends. Sometimes they look bad and they feel fine. Other times they look fine and they feel terrible. So it's a little bit hard to predict what he's dealing with right now. Luckily, he has a full lap advantage over Will Brunner. This may not be his favorite final stint.
Steering looks straight. That's the thing I always worry about when you see damage like that. That can be distracting and annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the right rear of that car has also seen some contact. So he's definitely gotten tangled up or run into, or combination of those. And Diego Del Real into turn 10. And looking at stint length here, any lap he's good to come in, but he's going to probably take this to the end of the stint. The Miatas with Friends car owes us a stop here basically now. And John Christie is in the box. Or no, I thought he was in the box, but he is still on the racetrack, just blinked out for a moment.
So I just took a look back to see what might have happened to Alessandrini. It looks like lap number 80, he had some contact with Ito Waxman in the corkscrew that probably led to that damage. I didn't catch the full incident, but that's a short version of what happened. And actually, because of all that, he's on the same lap now as Will Brunner. This could get interesting in P-Cups.
Oh, wow, that was a big moment. John Christie almost clobbered a static. I think that was Dana Basinski. Watch this, leaving turn 6. This is a jump scare.
All right, he got a little bit of a clue early on, but Basinski does a nice job to hold the brakes. Barely. Wow, that is an absolute code brown. And Basinski's still trying to find his way safely off the track. Reasonably handled from all involved, but again, just another self-spin, losing the back end of these new 992.2 P-Cups.
Gosh, this was so close.
Wow.
Oh, he did get tagged there the slightest little bit. Oh my gosh.
How many close calls do you want, Kyle? 1, 2, 3, 4.
He used up all of his luck. And
Yeah.
mine, I think. I think I should not go outside. He used up my luck too. Selfish. John Christie in the box though, and now it's Klaus Wood climbing back behind the wheel. 12.5 seconds. Zane Kahn's progress has really slowed down.
And we did hear no further action between the contact of that car and the Porsche Cup that happened about 10 laps ago in this spot at turn 3.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think the car ahead of him, I think was doing something unpredictable by not accelerating out of the corner and maintaining an inside line, which is not the racing line. That's typically the goal of the slower car, is to maintain a predictable line. And I don't know that car did that, so I don't know that there's any need for a penalty there. But certainly, if it had swung the other way, I could see the devil's advocate there too. So Zane got away with that one, Tom, and now you just got to keep your nose clean here for the last half hour.
Yeah, the silver lining, no matter how you look at that incident, is we still have a race to look forward to potentially in the last 28 minutes of this. That's a lot of time with the amount of pace that Kahn has had. And once again, I'm not confident that Diego Del Real will know that he has pressure from somebody. The closer the Kahn gets, the more likely he is to pop up in Diego Del Real's relative screen. There's Del Real down into the final corner. But if he doesn't have a spotter, if he doesn't have any communications going on and he's just in the car by himself.
Gosh, that was a scary moment.
This might be kind of getting to the first point that he learns, Del Real, that he's got some pressure.
Pellegrino in 6-7, and then Freddie De La Rosa. This is a battle for 9th place. And this is Mercedes AMG versus BMW, German classic as old as time.
6-7 Racing, I think the highest running BMW in GT3 right now. Put together a pretty good race. Has lost a total of 3 laps over the course of the race to the overall leader. But a lot of people have lost a lot of time in this race here and there. De La Rosa's got a lot of pace in this car. He qualified 3rd overall. Put in a great first stint. I'd expect that Mercedes to slowly but surely find a way by this BMW, but the BMW is a big, wide girl. Oh, he's going to make it easy for him, I think. Opens the door to the outside. De La Rosa gets a nice, easy look at the braking zone, even gets to go back to the line for the turn in.
"26 minutes remaining. Out front, 11.3 seconds. And just looking at the start-finish line here, you get a handful of cars on your relative, but Diego Del Real right here. There's 1 car, 2 cars, and I think Khan is going to very quickly be one of the vehicles on his relative screen. And I think he would be now, yeah. So now Diego should have a pretty good idea that that car is coming.
The question becomes whether or not Diego's got anything left in the tank as far as pace. He certainly would have maybe backed that risk reward down after Cobb's incident. But once again, the first indication you have that someone's catching you, you got to dial the wick right back up. I also want to point out we have a decent battle formulating for, I mean, it's effectively 3rd, but really 4th in GT3. The Miatas with Friends Klaus Wood car is down the front straight just now, and a couple car lengths, call it 10 car lengths behind, is the Montello Racing Corvette.
Zach Rubin into the pits for his final stop of the day. Just 25 minutes to go here, and again, keeping our eyes on this lead battle. If you're Zane Khan, Tom, what's the goal here? What's your focus these last 25 minutes to run down that car?
It's, I mean, it's qualifying laps until you can get past. You got to be just as aggressive as possible, as clean as possible. Every single 10th counts.
"24 minutes left, and Zane charging now, just 10 seconds between himself and Diego Del Real as the race leader. DJ Del Alessandrini. DJ Alessandrini leading the way in the Porsche 992s, and William Brunner and this Liberty Bell Husbands group. These two drivers, William Brunner and Ken Hauseal, they've done a really nice job keeping this car consistently on the podium all race long. But a car we haven't really talked a lot about is this on-the-ledge racing car since the second half of this race. Daniel McKelvey doing a great job keeping this car up on the podium for this class.
Yeah, and really actually within striking distance of the second place car. Will Brunner is just a corner ahead or so. And I did hear from some chatter offline that the Liberty Bell Husbands car of Brunner and Hauseal is kind of butt up right against that penalty drive-through limit that we talked about. So they might just be losing more time in being careful, which is, that's what that's there for. So Dan McKelvey has potentially an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive, take a little bit more risks, and try to run down for second place.
On the left-hand side of the screen, here's the note that you need. The top 2 drivers can only go 1 or 2 more laps, probably just 1 more lap on fuel. So we're very shortly going to find out what the situation is as Khan's coming into the box here, Tom. And this pit stop is going to be critical. No mistakes. Don't speed. Make sure you get your limiter on. Be efficient.
Pretty perfectly executed there. Now the question is, how short do you cut this fuel? You don't want to overfuel for any extra bit of time at all if you're Khan. Del Real can get away with a little bit more of a conservative fueling, but Khan's going to want to minimize this pit stop as much as physically possible. Just getting some tires on the car. Actually, maybe not even taking tires. The car did not go in the air, just to fuel and go.
I think that's the move here, and this should probably only be, 15, 20 seconds of a stop.
The other interesting note there is his damage was fixed. He saved his fast repair to the very, very, very end. I just noticed that damage fixed itself when he came to a stop. 17
seconds in the box. Now what does Diego do?
Ooh, he's got some traffic and pit out. That's going to be frustrating. Yeah, he's flashing the lights. Go, 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 bud. I'm trying to get back on track as quick as possible.
And he's going to pull right into the racing line there and get going. That might have cost him some time. Diego Del Real would expect to see him hit pit lane this time by, and he is not. He's going to go try to go 1 more. And this could be critical, Tom, because it's just that much less fuel you got to put in the tank. But he's got traffic, too.
Yeah, totally agree on both points. I think this traffic might offset that holdup that Khan had a pit out, although Basinski or Pucci, not sure, the Bucky's car does make it pretty easy for him. He's got 2 more to deal with. That's Zach Rubin and Richard Sawicki, both just ahead. They're going to see the overall leader coming up through, and at this point in the race, it's likely they should make it easy, but they don't have to.
No. Everyone's entitled to their racetrack. Diego's going to go by the 992 fairly easily. Set of sights on the McLaren GT3 just up the road.
Oh, real quick, this happened on my screen, but a spin for Anthony Montello in the final corner. There he is. He had just closed it within about 3 seconds of the Miatas with Friends car with Klaus Wood at the wheel, and that self-spin coming off the corner gets the power down. Maybe a bit of flash heating on the tire, and it just loses it. That's going to take away his opportunity for a podium, I think.
Yeah, backed it into the wall, just the slightest bit. I don't see any damage, but it did knock him down to P5. And Tom, I also see a black flag, and it could be incident limit. It could be a meatball, because you back the gearbox into the concrete like that. That's not going to be good for it. So they'll owe us a trip to pit lane in addition to that. So that's not what they needed with just 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, it looks like they just crossed that black flag limit, so that's going to be insult to injury, a self-spin leading to a drive-through penalty.
Diego Del Real's in pit lane. This is the critical moment now. We're on pit lane for 17 seconds for Zane Khan. And 15 seconds for Diego Del Real. That's going to be a pretty sizable gain, I think, for Diego. With only 20 minutes, I don't know that Zane can, well, we'll see where this comes out. It's going to be 12, 10, 11 seconds, somewhere in there.
Yeah, this is a really big gap for Diego to maintain. It's going to be a miracle if Khan can run him down. I think both drivers choosing no tires at the very end, double stint these tires, or maybe stint and a quarter. There's the gap between the two of them. It was a valiant effort, but this driver had a few too many setbacks, I think, to fully make that recovery.
The other thing
not done yet, though.
The other thing to note is, whoops, wrong button there. We're getting pretty late in this day, about 4:30 local time. It's getting dark with the cloud cover. We're not going to necessarily see the headlights come on, but visibility, I mean, even from the broadcast side, it's dark out there.
Yeah, it's not the most balmy day at Laguna Seca, but we kind of went with this because we thought it still looks better than when it's all washed out in the sun. And it's a little more fun to have fast lap weather than it is slow lap weather.
Indeed.
So we were watching for the battle in fourth in GT3 with the spin from the Montello racing car. It's kind of fizzled now to the point where Sam Mayorga in the third place Scuderia Chicken House car has a pretty sizable advantage over Klaus Wood, who's on your screen now, the 25 Porsche, pretty comfortably now in second, and will likely be the last car on the lead lap when this thing is all done and said. Montello Racing owes us that penalty drive-through, which could possibly put Mitch Crowther in striking distance. He's the first car off the lead lap in this McLaren.
This is now 2 hours and 40 minutes in. This is when you start to really see the culmination of your strategy, the mistakes, the wins, other people's mistakes, other people's strategies. You start to kind of understand how the pieces are going to start fitting in. And, you know, there are definitely times when you start to feel a little hopeless because you're not going to necessarily get to where you wanted. And then more often than not, I'm in a situation where I feel a lot of anxiety and pressure from behind, you know, watching someone else whose strategy is working for them run me down. I think that's sort of what Diego Del Real must have felt. But he's stabilized that charge from Khan with a strong pit stop, and DJ Alessandrini and Giovanni Romano in their classes respectively really don't have a lot of pressure at the moment.
No, and I think this race was almost always going to be a busy one throughout, but not likely to end up with really, you know, door-to-door battles at the end, just by nature of how busy it's been, how easy it is to get separated from cars in your class. And exactly to your point, there are times where you don't even know where the puzzle pieces are going to fall because it's been so chaotic, and maybe it falls in a place where you have a little bit of a race at the end, but everyone's just been so busy this entire race so far. There are cars that are in a little bit worse for wear, like Alessandrini's car carrying that damage. He's probably not too concerned that he doesn't have a fight for the win at this point. He's had a busy enough race, as well as, you know, most of the GT4 cars, most of the P-Cup cars, pretty spread out.
Yeah, and really, honestly, that damage that he has, I don't think it's affecting the pace enough to be a factor. It looked like Brunner and others last time around were sort of similar or even slower. So, again, really just lucky that it didn't knock out the toe or anything where his steering is off, because that just gets, not only is it annoying, but suddenly you're having to have neutral steering in the center of the corner, and one tire's doing one thing and the other tire's doing another thing. It just leads to disaster here. Here's two BMWs, these team cars side by side. Not technically, but 6-7 and Vital Motorsports. These liveries are very similar, but not teammates.
Yeah, and I think both of these cars are going to be in the conversation for the hard charger. They've picked up over 8 positions respectively in class each to get themselves almost into the top 10, having qualified 19th and 20th respectively. So this is a pretty big, a pretty decent race as far as charger goes, and they may walk away with a Spicy Cat Racing membership for that hard charger. That will go to one of the cars in any of the classes. Really, really tight stuff in the corkscrew. These cars take up a little more real estate than everybody else, so it makes it that much harder.
Yeah, these are big cars. Sometimes you'll walk up to a race car and realize how little they are. I've had that experience with GTPs, but these BMWs look exactly like you think they'd look.
Yep.
And you're surprised that they didn't start the model name with USS.
Yeah, exactly. If you remember the Bentley GT3 from about a decade ago, I was talking to a driver from that car, and he said it's a big car, but it's not a heavy car. And once you get your head around that and you start to drive it that way, it's actually one of the most interesting cars that he had driven. Because of that, the 54 shows the nose, nearly contact at the second apex in the Andretti hairpin. Going to lose a little bit of time off the exit, and now lap traffic comes into effect. Lets them through nice and easily.
All right, so this might fizzle for a moment. Wanted to check back in with the GT3 leaders. Zane Khan, 9.7 behind. The reason I bring this up, last time by was 1.7 seconds quicker than Diego Del Real, which could have been traffic related, but that kind of gap is going to get him back to the front, and plenty of time to actually take the lead away from Diego Del Real, but he can't stall around and have, mediocre laps. This is at the point in the race where he needs to gain that chunk every lap.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it actually looks like at some point in this race, this is probably really early on, Zane Khan earned a drive-through penalty on incident points.
Yeah.
Diego Del Real did not. So he's actually still sitting fairly comfortably within that incident limit, which effectively means both of them can push those incident limits to the end of the race. Khan has about 10 more to burn.
Oh,
really awkward, 3 wide around Spicy Cat Racing's Ryan Lorman down in the final corner. And actually, the 54, the BMW, is going to pick up a position from that move.
For now, at least. They'll battle on the way down to turn 2. A quick point again on Khan, though. Imagine without that drive-through penalty, he would be leading this race.
Without all the hiccups, it could have been a relatively dominant performance. Although without hiccups from either of them, they could be glued together.
Exactly. Could be a very different story. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Racing is not about what could have happened. It's what did happen. 13 minutes left.
This is going to feel like the longest 13 minutes for Del Real, and it's going to feel like the shortest 13 minutes for Zane Khan, separated by just at 10 seconds last time across the line. Del Real exiting the final corner right now, but on screen, these two BMWs continue their great battle, just clearing Iriardi, GT4 Cayman, and it looks like that 54 car, once he got through, the Vital Motorsports, Zach Pritchard, has quite a bit more pace, and he's starting to drive away.
Heading down the hill in the corkscrew. The last handful of times they'll do it in this race. Rick Valdez is in for the Circus Survive race team. I like that team name. Feels apropos today. No other major battles. It's really just these two BMWs and then the one that we were watching for the lead. But again, it doesn't seem to be, it's just, Zane was just really taking chunks out, and here now it's just chipping away.
The other battle that I think might have actually just concluded, there's some incident points being burned. Drops it off coming out of turn 5. Beautifully floated through turn 6, up the corkscrew blind braking zone just after the crest here. You want to get the car in position, but you brake just before it, float over. You really just dive straight at the apex and fall over the mountain here. It's kind of a corner cutting thing, a distance cutting, excuse me, than it is carrying momentum. coming up really quick on, I think this Porsche is still in second place in GT4.
Oh, and that's going to really cost Zane some time there, too. He had gained about a second this lap, and he'll give some of that back. To your point, that is the Backflip Boys 46, driven by Alexander Bueller. No day off here.
Last lap was 9.6. This lap, 8.2. I mean, he's still just absolutely running down Del Real, but you've got to wonder how much management maybe is happening from Del Real. He's probably seen Zane Khan on his relative at this point, at least once. Just needs 10 more laps, 10 more minutes, excuse me, of clean running, not losing any significant amount of time or taking any big risks.
Oh, off track is Scott Holtzman in the Penalty Box Motorsports Mustang. That was turn 11. And he's got now Vital Motorsports past him, and the 6.7 BMW is right there ready to pounce as well. He was actually turned around. And was it on his own? He was passing the number 4 GT4 car. And maybe had a little help. Yeah.
No, I think that was just at the apex. Sometimes these cars, you can lose the back end from your entry speed. It looks like they should have gripped up, but they just spin. Bit of a flat slide. I don't think the 4 got into him at all. Probably just got surprised at the fact that the Mustang was across the track.
Yep, you got it.
If there was a touch, it was the most minorest little thing that we'll never be able to pick out.
Yeah, I don't think that there was, but it was awful close. Great work there by the 4 to kind of dodge and weave, get around it.
Live YouTube chat still 80 plus strong. Someone made the point, if Khan catches Del Real, he still needs to pass him. Yep. Very, very, very good point. I think catching him is kind of a win in itself.
Yeah, catching's one thing, passing's another. That's the age-old adage I've always said. And you can run someone down from a long ways back, but actually, you're super close on pace. How are you going to figure out where to pass him or her, and how are they going to defend? And honestly, these two really haven't raced each other all day. That's the other thing to consider, Tom. That might actually make this catalyze a bit quicker, because Diego and Zane really don't have a lot of experience running nose to tail. They don't have each other's moves scienced out. I don't think Diego's seen Khan's car in front of him all day. He hasn't seen how aggressive he's been. So
yeah, exactly.
I think there's a lot to learn here in the last 10 minutes.
Car going for a ride. It's a P-Cup. Rejoins. Oh,
gosh.
Sorry, that was the GT3 Porsche. I think it's the 35.
I think you might be right. Let's have a look. This was really closer than I wanted it to be, but
that's Yanis Petrovic's just going for a little slide through turn 6. Might have had some dirty tires coming off of turn 5. This will likely be self-inflicted. Does he grab the curb? Yes, I think he did. Big crash. Long slide. Actually, no crash, luckily.
I would call that a crash.
A crash that never went thud. How about that?
There you go. I like that. 7 seconds between Diego and Zane. 9 minutes to go.
That's the first lap that Zane Khan did not meaningfully take anything out of the lead. 7.6. The prior lap, it was 7.3. That time at the line. So he may have just kind of hit that limit. Oh, that was clunky. There's 2 GT4 cars all of a sudden.
You get by the 992 and then by the M4. But he's losing ground here.
These are all the cars that Diego Del Real would have been passing over the prior 3 or 2 laps, so it makes sense that this is going to ebb and flow just slightly. Frans Hansen defends the inside very fairly, lets the Ferrari get the ideal braking line down to the corkscrew. At 1 minute and 20 per lap, 7 seconds to pick off to get back up to Diego Del Real. He's going to need to take over a second out per lap, maybe a second and a half almost at this point, which is a really tall order.
It is. I mean, he was doing that fairly consistently earlier in the charge, but again, I think they're out of tire. No tires on either Diego's car or Zane, so I think he just can't. He seems like he was really finding pace with aggression, and when your grip level can't support that aggressive driving, you kind of have to back it down a notch. And into turn 1, right behind the 41 Porsche. That was very tight. The Top Bomb racing car of Ryan Christoph, and Ryan State driver's right, but this is not what Zane needs.
That Porsche running 6th in class right now. It's the first car on the lap that they are on. Unfortunately, they're 3 laps down from Alessandrini, 2 laps down from 2nd place. The only other position that I see that may still be in contention is potentially third in the 992 Cup cars. Got Zach Rubin running in the third spot right now. Daniel McKelvey is about 2 corners back, 1 corner back in the On the Ledge racing car. When they've actually got the overall leader, Del Real, coming through on them. We're watching turn 6, just seeing how many cars are streaming through there. But there's the On the Ledge racing car, the white and orange, just now having been split.
What does the traffic situation for Diego look like? There's a couple of cars. So this is a bunch, and he'll probably catch at least a few of these. So he'll definitely catch those. Net loss for Khan that last time by, though, and now it's 7 seconds, 6 minutes.
As the checkered flag is imminent, coming in just about 7 or 6 minutes time. We also should thank SCCA, the Sports Car Club of America, is giving away $50 off coupons for any track night in America for all the class winners, up to 3 class drivers in those teams. So right now it's looking like Diego Del Real might be earning himself a little bit of a discount on a real-world driving event. Allison Drini leading the Porsche Cup cars, also in that position. And right now Giovanni Romano and Alex Cofford would both win that discount as well. So I love that basically all the prizes we have here move someone towards driving in real life, whether it's discounts or whether it's parts, whatever you need.
Yeah, great initiative there, and I think it's really great that Lizard Brains is stitching together this community across different organizations and across different disciplines. Really is all about community, and again, 55 teams signing up for this race today, and the vast majority of them getting very close to completion. And just 5 minutes left on the clock. A little bit of a battle here in GT3 further back. Vital Motorsports' Zach Pritchard is putting pressure on Ben Galashan now here for 8th place. So there are still fights coming down to the wire.
Zach Pritchard has been so fast in this final stint. 1 car dropping tires way in the background there. I think they're okay. But remember, Pritchard had just passed a couple of other cars to get into this position. He shows the nose down into Rainy Curve and is easily going to knife under. Whoa, the 49 car didn't quite see him coming and is going to end up off the track because of it. And count that a 9th position now for Zach Pritchard.
Pellegrino is awarded a penalty, and they'll have to come in.
Likely just cleared that incident limit.
I think they might have been the car that you saw off track, perhaps.
Yeah, likely.
So, all right, here's your leader. Couple cars side by side, 6.5 seconds back. And Diego's probably locked in right now, watching that relative gap come on down, knowing that there is some pressure, but every lap we tick through, we're getting closer and closer to relief here.
There's actually 6 cars between Del Real and Zane Khan, make it 7 now.
That's a lot.
There's a lot for this Ferrari to intercept. Ooh, McLaren going a little bit wide. This is going to be a very busy last couple laps, and it's going to actually be contact at the apex of 11. The McLaren a little bit out of sorts, and I think is just trying to gather it up out of bandwidth for a second. I don't think there was much of a touch, but there was a bit of contact there.
Yeah, just enough that it has delayed the charge forward just that much more. And I think we're getting down to probably next time by, 2 laps to go, perhaps? Maybe 3?
Yeah, at about a minute 20, minute 21 is when the game will assume that it's going to be the last lap.
The game simulator, you mean, Tom?
Simulator, excuse me. That would be, I would say, probably still 2.5 laps for Diego Del Real, dropping tires there out of turn 6. High momentum through from turn 5 to turn 6. Gets a run up the inside of Jack Stadola, bringing the Porsche Cup home. Currently running 7th in that class. But Del Real has just done a fantastic job. He has had some of those incidents. He's been in the gravel trap twice. Both times he was cutting things close, but ended up really just getting collected in things that were other people's loss of control or lack of awareness, I would say. Nothing really egregious, but it hasn't been perfect. It has been the best managed race, I would say, pretty by far over the rest of the field. Doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, only having a 7-second advantage, but.
So I think this will be 2 laps to go. I think with we came across the line at 2:35 remaining. Yeah.
Yep.
A bit of a battle here. This is for 10th in GT4. Jesse Meager and Raul Iriardi.
Yeah. That's Mayer in the green car. I only know because he told me, but these guys have not been able to get away from each other, either team, either driver. And I have to imagine in a different version of this race, this would be the battle for second in GT4. Potentially even in the noise of first if we didn't make that admin mistake with the Mustang. But with that, excellently delivered race and also a little bit of a fuel advantage. The huge-ass Mustang of Giovanni Romano and Alex Crawford are up a full lap on the rest of the field.
I didn't think Mustang was that big, but
yeah.
Minute 30 left to go. And this for Diego Del Real. He's got 2.2 miles remaining after 3 hours of trials and tribulations and patience and spins and a couple bits of little contact here and there. Passing the GT4 race leader, so it will be the last lap for everybody. White flag, 1 to go in the Sim Lizard 3 Hour presented by Spicy Cat Racing.
11 turns left, now make it 10. Diego Del Real has just been so on point this race. He puts in so much work with the sim. This is a driver that popped up into our circles maybe just over a year ago. We've gotten to know him, puts in a lot of time, hosts his own races here and there, both in his iRacing and Assetto Corsa, has a Civic, very similar to those like DJ Alessandrini used to drive. Kevin Zhu still drives, that he does some track driving in real life, but for the most part, he's just been cutting his chops on the sim stuff and has been basically the class of the field. This is the driver, if you were to say, DJ Alessandrini, who are you going to pick a class to race with to get good competition? It's Diego Del Real, and he's put that on show today.
Entering turn 6, we'll check in with the Porsche 992 leader. That is DJ Alessandrini, just behind him on the racetrack. Again, co-host of the Lizard Brains podcast. Another really well-managed race. And and there is a little damage to this car, but not enough to take it off the top step. And then in GT4, Giovanni Romano plunges down the hill. But Diego Del Real in the Spicy Cat Racing Porsche is looking like the car to beat. And Zane Khan was still making inroads, but it's not enough, Tom. And final turn, the number 22 Porsche 911 992 GT3R, Diego Del Real, Spicy Cat Racing survives 3 hours of intense action at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and Del Real wins the Sim Lizard 3 Hour presented by Spicy Cat Racing.
That is awesome. And already passed is Zane Khan, having finished in the second spot. This is your winner in GT4. Giovanni Romano, started by Alex Crawford, these two splitting that Mustang. And I think they might have run the smartest race of anybody in the field. Of course, we had that fueling. That aside, they were just really, really doing a nice job. Every time we saw them on camera, they take the win by over a lap. And then this, the number 3, DJ Alessandrini for the Lizard Brains podcast. The hostess with the mostest takes the win in the Porsche Cups.
So cool down lap now. We'll have a look here at the race results while we wait for cars to roll back around. And 3 hours later, we know who wins all 3 of our categories. Let's have a look here, Tom. And wow, this was fun. Diego Del Real by 5.2 seconds. That was a fight that almost came down to the very end.
It really did. Any little thing that didn't happen in that race would have meant that we had a knockdown drag out at the very finish. Only 5 seconds separating them at the end. Sam Mayorga doing a fantastic job for Scuderia Chicken House to bring the car home in the 3rd spot over Klaus Wood in another Porsche. The top finishing Corvette, Anthony Montello, shared with Michael Montello, wasn't necessarily the look that they were expecting, the finish they were expecting about a half hour ago, but they still maintained the top 5. DJ Alessandrini has a bragging rights of 6th overall in the Porsche Cup cars. Before we get into the second page, Crowther, De La Rosa, Zach Pritchard, rounding out the top 8 or so in GT3 before we get to Will Brunner and the rest in the Porsche Cups.
Yeah, looking down the podium finishers there, Zach Rubin in the Porsche Cup category. Valdis Vancevicius, he got kind of roughed off the racetrack a couple of times, but had a nice result there. Ryan Christoph we saw battling inside the top 10 in Porsche 992 category. Down here, a little bit deeper in the field, top 10s for Nick Bauer, Pierre Pucci, and Dana Basinski pairing up. They're going to be proud of that run right behind Roman Bykov and Pete Stadola in the number 18. Then the first of the GT4s, Giovanni Romano and Alex Crawford in the number 51 for Huge Ass Racing, Alexander Bueller in the 46, and Manu Sankar, Tom, in the number 17 Ford. We didn't see quite as much back and forth in the GT4s, but it was fun to watch them at times, especially adding that traffic element between themselves and the other categories.
And I really think the GT4 drivers probably get the gold star for the most work. They had absolutely everybody else to contend with, while the rest, probably there were GT3s who never saw other P Cups and vice versa. Every GT4 car saw every other car a lot this race. So Benson Tai coming home fourth. That's a good run. Franz Hansen, takes home a fifth place, even with his woes. Josh Case, Nate Traxler rounding out the top 5 or so. And man, that was a lot of fun to watch. We do have all of our class winners joining the voice chat for a little bit of interview action. I'm really curious to hear what the perspective on this race was. It's so different sitting in the booth than being on the track or, in the voice chats.
Well, let's have a chat now with our, let's actually start with perhaps the GT4 and the Huge Ass driver Giovanni Romano brings home the victory in the GT4 category. Tom, you might need to drag him for me if you can. And that is going to be our GT4 winner. We'll start with Diego Del Real because who's joined us now in the Spicy Cat Racing number 22 Porsche. Diego, what a race. A little bit of everything for everybody in this one. 55 teams around Laguna Seca, a lot to manage. It wasn't a perfect run. There was a couple slips and slides and things, but a hard-charging Zane Khan, you managed to hang on. Take us through it.
Yeah, it was a tricky race. Austin Cobb and a few other guys were pretty competitive at the start. I think top 3 or so were covered by 5 seconds, even like an hour into the race. Unfortunately, I got taken out one time, passing somebody around the outside of the penultimate corner, and then another time into the corkscrew. But I was pretty frustrated afterward, and I think that made me a bit faster. So, yeah, that was fun.
Tom?
So, Diego, at what point, I'm not even sure if you did, but at what point were you aware of Zane Khan running back after he had qualified basically on the second row, was within the hunt to win this race, and then ended up less than 10 seconds behind you after multiple incidents? Were you aware that car was coming? Did you have to manage that at all? Or was it just kind of blissfully unaware on the relative?
Yeah, I think when he was like 20 seconds back, my crew chief thing said that he did 20.1. So I kind of was, from then on, I pulled up the standings and we're just staring at the gap go down. So whenever I had clean air, I was trying to go as fast as I could, but with traffic, it's just tricky. And yeah, I tried to play it safe. I mostly passed on the exits for the slower cars, but sometimes I had to go on the inside. But yeah, everyone was pretty well behaved, actually. All the GT4s and the P Cups did very well. But yeah, I had a fun time.
Thanks, Diego. Appreciate your time. Congratulations on winning an event that was so competitive, and we'll see you around. And let's bring in the next one, Tom. It'll be DJ Alessandrini, driver of the number 3 Porsche 992.2. Brand new car this week, DJ. But for you, it looked like business as usual. Led basically the whole thing. Had a little bit of damage. We didn't catch the cause of it, but it didn't seem to affect you. You went on and win. Great event. We had a lot of fun up here watching it. So tell us a little about how it felt from your perspective out the windshield.
I'm freaking whipped. I am toast. I am... You know, I've done like 3, 4, 5 hour stints before, but Laguna is just like, it's just, I think it was like the first 25 minutes I realized I haven't had an unimpeded lap yet. Because I got like most of an unimpeded lap and was like, oh, there's my fastest lap of the race by a lot. Oh, it's because I've been passing people like the entire race. It was definitely exhausting. And in the middle of the race, I found out that the Mustangs must have not had the fuel set correctly. So I want to apologize to the entire GT4 class. I've already added a column to my Excel file that will help me double check that I indeed checked every single car before the race server goes live. It's part of the reason why I host like 6 practices. So like if anything like that can get caught. Unfortunately, the 60 people plus that participated in the practices, nobody caught the fuel issue on the Mustang. So I want to apologize for that.
Tom?
I'm really curious. I don't think you mentioned, but what was the damage from? I think we saw was maybe an incident with Ido Waxman, and then how did it affect the car? Was it one of those where the car's ugly but it feels fine, or were you dealing with more than we know?
Yeah, it was probably like a half second to 3/4 seconds off pace. Like the temperature falling of the server might have masked it a little bit, but it was real pushy in the left-handers. And like as the stint went on, just that constant abuse in the right front tire like really, really impacted the the car. You know, it was a little interesting with whether to take tires or not. But looking at the issues that people double stinting were having, I think that was the better move. I just kind of assumed that it took tires at the same time. I found out like 10 minutes before the race that it was not like that. So it made it a little bit more interesting than it could have been.
Thanks, TJ. Really fun to watch as always. Really cool event. Fun to be a part of. And we've got one more to chat with. That'll be our winner in the GT4 category. So DJ, thanks.
Thanks. Later, guys.
And Giovanni Romano driving the huge-ass Ford Mustang in GT4. Giovanni, GT4 was a fun battle today. There was a lot going on around you, but it seemed like for you guys, pretty smooth sailing right from the drop of the green. Take us through your race.
Yeah, it was a very exciting race. So much traffic, so I think I spent more time looking out the rearview mirror than the front of the car. Just a constant stream of GT3s and Porsche Cups, and there's not so much time to focus on raw pace and mostly just focusing on managing traffic. So it was a good challenge.
Yeah, I think that was pretty evident every time we cut to this car. It was making good choices in traffic. We did have a little bit of an administrative error with the fueling that left you guys on a 2-stop instead of a 3-stop. But either way, I think you'd already put your stamp on the race, mostly in that first stint. Were there any other challenges that popped up in the race that we might not have seen? It looks like the car was pretty clean, and if you don't have anything interesting there, how many incident points did you have, or other words, how few?
Yeah, first of all, the fuel. Yeah, shame about that. That sucks. If I had noticed that, I would have called it out. I joined the race halfway through, and Cofford was talking with Bueller, who was running behind us in P2, and they were trying to figure out why Cofford was 8 laps better on fuel. And I'm like, yeah, it looks like, and I realized, like, yeah, it looks like the tank sizes are wrong. So I think at that point, Cofford let you guys know, which, that sucks. That happens. These races are so difficult to set up, so that stuff sometimes squeaks through. And I think ultimately it didn't affect the final results. We ended up about just almost a lap ahead of Bueller and P2. And I think even if the fuel was set up properly, probably would have won by 25, 30 seconds. So it didn't end up affecting the result, which is good. Aside from that, no, it was a really clean race. I think I had one really scary moment where someone spun out before the kink, and but kudos to them, they held their brakes and it made the difference. Otherwise, I think I would have plowed right into them. So shout out to them. I don't remember who it was. Outside of that, I think I only had a single 1X. Only one. I was disappointed. I almost had a clean double stint. So,
well, you guys can have the cherry on top. Not only did you only have 8X incidents in 3 hours, that is the fewest of any team. So congratulations on a fast, clean win.
Oh, that's really good. Nice.
Thanks, Giovanni. Appreciate your time. Congratulations. Job well done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, Tom, we'll wrap things up. That was a really, really fun race. I think 3 hours, by the way, that feels like the right length. I think the class and the track made for a really fun event. There was never a dull moment. There were certainly moments where we would switch over and see drivers trying to go 7 wide and 10 deep down the front straightaway. But what a cool event! And again, Lizard Brains continue to put on some top-notch events. 55 teams on the Sunday after PRI, where a lot of people that were in this race were coming from. So very impressive.
Yeah, they fought the snow to get home. Thank you again, Kyle, for this. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you, Spicy Cat Racing, for presenting it with us, offering the prizes, and to the Sports Car Club of America for those discounts for our class winners. We'll be announcing the prize winners outside of those class wins shortly. And in general, our goal is to do at least 2 more of these in the off season. Let's count that maybe through the beginning to mid-March. So if you are not already part of it, you can join the Lizard Brains podcast Discord to keep an eye out. We do have weekly races that are kind of pop up, come and go as you please, not official league races. And then some of these special events that we're super proud to have broadcast with you, Kyle.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity as always, Tom, and had a lot of fun. And again, it's been a while since I've kind of dusted off the multi-class stuff for a little bit, so it was kind of neat to do, and hope to have more of these in the future. So, Tom, I'll let you take us clear with the music from the podcast this time. That was a nice little extra touch. Great idea there. And I think you got something to tell everybody before we sign off.
To everyone who watched the league race, to the broadcast, to everyone who participated, made it to the end of the broadcast. As always, I love your hair, and I hope you win.